founder of Untuck It. When I started the brand, I wanted to make the perfect fitting Untucked shirt. And over the years, we changed the way guys think about how they dress. The secret was our obsession over fabric quality, listening to what our customers wanted and making everything fit perfectly. Our fit team has mastered pants, polos, sports coats, and more. So we've got you covered from head to toe. Try what millions of guys already know and love. Shop today at untuckit.com or our 80-plus stores worldwide.
Oh, this cold.
Honey?
Honey?
Honey, you need DayQuil Severe Honey.
DayQuil Severe Honey gives you powerful cold and flu symptom relief with a honeylicious taste, because life doesn't stop for a cold.
Okay, I'm ready to go.
Now I'm getting a cold.
Honey.
Try DayQuil Severe Honey for powerful cold and flu relief. DayQuil Severe with honey flavor. The daytime coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever, honeylicious, power through your day medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Partly to mostly sunny skies, windy and warm again this afternoon. 78 for the high, close to a record tonight. Windy and mild, but let's look for scattered showers and thunderstorms. A couple could be on the strong side and starting to take hold fairly early in the evening. 55 for the low. On Tuesday, a couple of showers and thunder showers in the morning. Otherwise, mostly cloudy, slightly cooler, 63. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
And paid for by America First Tax Group. Attention, if you or your business is behind in filing your tax returns, or if you owe over $10,000 in back taxes to the IRS, please listen carefully. The IRS does not joke around and will not stop their collection efforts. If you're tired of the IRS letters, levies, liens, or wage garnishments and would like to get a fresh start, we can help. Due to the financial hardships in the country, the IRS is making it easier than ever to settle tax problems for those who owe more than $10,000. We can help settle your delinquent tax problems, end all collections, and may even reduce your back taxes significantly. Even if you can't afford to pay your back taxes, you can still get the help you need. We've helped thousands of taxpayers just like you, but you must call 800-212-5471 today to stop your tax problem from getting worse. The information is free and the help is real. Call 800-212-5471. That's 800-212-5471. Again, 800-212-5471.
When you're approaching retirement, there are a lot of questions to answer. Do you have enough money to fund your income for life? How should you claim Social Security? And what's your plan for health care and long-term care? Hi, I'm Eric Robert, Director of Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money Saturday mornings at 11 on 97.1 FM Talk. Don't leave your retirement to chance. It's crucial to understand and address relevant risks before you retire. Our team can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com. Or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Hi, I'm Officer Jacob Boomgarden with the Springfield, Missouri Police Department. We're currently looking for driven, qualified team players to become the next generation of community-minded servants in Springfield, Missouri. Our salaries and benefits are paid from day one. Plus, a career with the SPD gives you a truly unique opportunity to serve the community as a leader of it. To learn more, visit gospd.com. That's gospd.com. gospd.com. Brought to you by the Springfield, Missouri Police Department.
Download the free Upside app and earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Download the free Upside app now and use promo code GIFT for an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first fill-up. That's promo code GIFT.
The Annie Fry Show YouTube live chat poll of the day is sponsored by Ruler Foods. Low prices, no coupons. Ruler Foods.
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
Thank God someone here knows what they're talking about.
That's us. That's right. Gotta love this American ride.
All right, you need to take the time and get the full picture.
Don't get me wrong. I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom. It is Anchor Man, not Anchor Lady.
What do you want from me? I'm not America's sweetheart.
Goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
I'm not America's sweetheart.
This is the Annie Fry Show.
The U.S. Supreme Court rules in favor of former President Donald Trump in his appeal of a Colorado ballot disqualification. That applies to Colorado. In all likelihood, it will apply to other states as well.
Yes, it will. And this is Ryan Wiggins filling in for Annie Fry. I got to tell you, I'm going to set up the show here. We're, of course, going to talk about the Supreme Court ruling. It is another. I say this often enough. We all say it often enough that it's almost becoming a moot point. It's another historic day. We have another thing that's never happened before that has taken place, and so we're, of course, going to be all over that. Annie Fry, if you're wondering, has the day off. She's not sick. She'll be back tomorrow. It's just a scheduled day. We've known about this for a couple weeks. Here's what I love, though. Whenever Annie is gone, whether it's because she just randomly got sick or she had a scheduled day like today, major news happens. That's one of my favorite things. I know there's no way to plan for it.
No, but you can mark it on the calendar. It's like if Annie's going to be out, SCOTUS is going to have a big ruling.
Yes.
Or, something major is going to happen. Donald Trump's going to get another charge against him or something.
Something big that we weren't expecting. And that's what's funny about this one is that over the weekend, we started to see, Supreme Court may be issuing a ruling. We didn't know what it was for, but we kind of speculated this is what it was going to be on Monday. And all of a sudden it was, of course it's going to be Monday because Annie just so happens to not be here. So again, she's fine. She'll be back tomorrow. We'll have a normal show just like usual the rest of the week. But today I do want to tell you we got a pretty big show. Not only is Brad Range doing Wiggins America, which makes no sense, and you're going to love that at 12:45, but Zack Smith, legal fellow at Heritage, is going to come on and break down some of what we just saw in the Supreme Court today. I've got a full report, and I've got some sound that we're going to talk through right now, too. But Pacific Legal, another great organization that I have on my weekend show pretty often, they're going to be on in the 2 o'clock hour to talk about not just this big case, but this whole session. There's been a whole bunch of cases, just like with any Supreme Court session. There's been a bunch of cases that you hear a little bit about, and you know that it probably affects your life in some way or another, maybe not immediately. We're going to talk through some of those cases in the middle of the 2 o'clock hour. Right now, though, this Trump Supreme Court case is, I'll put it this way. If you've listened to the Annie Fry Show for any amount of time, you'll remember our assistant producer, Hannah. Mm-hmm. Now, Hannah works for Y98 now, and we were waiting throughout the entire 11 o'clock hour for Trump to speak about this topic, and he has. And we've, of course, got some sound for you for that, too, if you weren't listening up until just now. But I walked out of the studio when we're kind of waiting for Trump, and obviously, like, when that's happening, the newsroom, like, everybody's a little bit more abuzz because we know something's about to happen. Everybody's kind of on their toes. We never know exactly when somebody's going to speak. And this happens with not just Trump. It happens with Biden. It happens with other officials when we know there's some big announcement coming. So she said, is this, very, very plain question here, but I thought it was a really good one. Is this a big deal? And I had to pause for a second because my initial reaction was, well, of course it's a big deal. But I had to pause because I'm thinking about America right now, not just you and I who are our news junkies or political junkies, and saying, is this a big deal? Well, in a sense, no. Because what the Supreme Court did today was they unanimously, 9-0, decided that the leading Republican candidate, and if you want to look at polls, which I do, the leading candidate can stay on the ballot in all 50 states, essentially is what's going to happen from this ruling. That's not a big deal in that that's what should have happened.
But that's the big deal.
But that's the big deal, exactly. So we're talking about business as usual. So the Supreme Court stepped in today to make sure that things stayed normal, and they did the right thing. And so in that sense, I don't know that America's really going to be putting both eyes on this because they kind of restored normalcy, which is great. It's a great ruling. And we'll get into the specifics of it here too. But am I off, Brad?
Well, I think it is a big deal in the sense that they kept things. So I would look at this and go, this is a big deal because it seems like things have been going off the rails, and the Supreme Court came in and said, no, the Constitution says this, and they didn't say it split. It was 9-0. They said, no, Colorado doesn't have the right to do this. They said that They kept, one of the things they mentioned was that it keeps other states from removing other candidates off the ballot for whatever reasons that they won or whatever. Because remember in this, the grounds that Colorado was using was not a conviction for insurrection.
Right.
Nor was it a charge. He hasn't been charged with insurrection either.
Correct.
But they're removing him under the Sixth Amendment because they're saying that, or not
14th Amendment.
14th Amendment, they're saying that on January 6th, he incited an insurrection, and therefore he is an insurrectionist and cannot be on the ballot. That has not been proven legally.
Correct. Yeah. And by the way, this is all separate from that case that's happening right now. So that hasn't taken place. And you want more Supreme Court news? This is last week. Supreme Court took up the case of presidential immunity, which Trump spoke to. I mean, Trump, when he spoke just now, if you didn't hear the speech, it's okay because it was all over the place.
Yeah.
We thought, stepping in here, that Trump was going to kind of stand in front of the flag and, in your words, Brad, spike the football.
Spike the football.
And say, here we go.
Yeah.
We're on the ballot in all 50
On to
states.
November.
Let's go. Right. He didn't really do that. In fact, he seemed kind of low-key, which was odd after a big win for him.
Low-key and meandering is how I would describe it.
He did go kind of all over the place. He did not stick to the teleprompter, assuming he had one there. He had no podium, so he's just kind of standing there talking to you. And he went all over the place. One of the things that he, and my guess is this is why he was not, spike the football, cheer, cheer, Trump, is because most of what he talked about was the other cases against him. And this is where I'm kind of bringing it back around. When you mentioned January 6th, the states were referencing that to keep Trump off the ballot. Well, he's never been convicted, and as most people have said before, he's never even been tried for these cases. But that is what Zack Smith is trying to do right now.
Well,
in a sense.
In a sense, because like the charge against him in that case, the D.C. case, is a charge of defrauding the government.
Exactly, and that's not insurrection
No.
still, because they know they can't really get him. So all of this is happening, and again, back to that big question that I thought was a really good one from Hannah. Does this matter? Is this a big deal? Yes and no. Because again, my thesis is we're coming back to normal here a little bit, and in that way, this is a big deal. This is exactly what needed to happen from the Supreme Court. And I'll read for you a little bit of the way this played out with the Supreme Court, because, of course, you have justices who you like to say are the media says conservatives and liberals. I don't really like saying that because they're not that. You have Amy Coney Barrett, you have Gorsuch. Those are two that are considered conservative, and yet their rulings are very different.
Yeah.
Brett Kavanaugh is another. Clarence Thomas, they're among the quote-unquote conservative bloc, but they say very different things and come to very different conclusions, sometimes in the same ruling.
Yes.
That is what happened today. Now, putting the three liberals, if you want to say that, on the other side, they said something very different, even though this was 9-0. So I'm going to tell you what they said, and we'll try to interpret that a little bit, but I think Zack Smith, coming on at 126 this afternoon, will be able to give us a little bit more concrete on what this means. But it says that the court was unanimous in reversing the unprecedented decision out of Colorado that would kick Trump off the ballot under the provision after a state trial court found he participated in insurrection on January 6th through incitement. Here's the quote. For reasons given, responsibility for enforcing Section 3 against federal office holders and candidates rests with Congress and not the states. That's the majority opinion from this decision, that this is federal Washington, D.C. Congress's job to declare whether somebody could be liable for insurrection and therefore wouldn't be able to be on the presidential ballot. The Supreme Court opinion read that. The judgment of the Colorado Supreme Court therefore cannot stand. All 9 members of the court agree with that result. That is a big deal.
Yes.
The fact that it was 9-0 is a big deal. Here's where it starts to splinter a little bit. On holding that Congress had the power to enforce the provisions under Section 5 of the amendment, the decision would apply to federal offices nationwide. But the liberal justices have kind of done a strange dissent here, because what they've done is agreed with the ruling, but then disagreed with the way that the constitutional block of the court came to that decision. They say allowing Colorado to keep Trump off the ballot. This is the liberal justice, Sotomayor, Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, saying allowing Colorado to keep Trump off the ballot, they agreed, would create a chaotic state-by-state patchwork at odds with our nation's federalism principles. That's enough to resolve the case. That's where they landed. That's why it was 9-0. But they say the majority went too far. The majority decided that novel constitutional questions to insulate this court and petitioner was to insulate it from future controversy. The majority announces that a disqualification for insurrection can occur only when Congress enacts a particular kind of legislation pursuant to Section 5 of the 14th Amendment. So they kind of say, yeah, but it shouldn't be Congress's job to decide who can be on the ballot and who isn't. So I'm not really sure what, then what is it?
Yeah.
Like, then whose job is it?
Yeah, maybe that's something you can ask Zack Smith.
And that is what we will ask him, because if the liberals were dissenting, were they just dissenting to dissent? Because it seems like this is where you would make that decision when this historic case is before the Supreme Court. They all, and that's what's, if you wanted to dissent, then vote against it. They agreed that Colorado couldn't do this.
Yeah.
But then they didn't explain why, really. The liberal justices, whereas most of the conservatives did, except for Amy Coney Barrett. She agreed. She issued, I guess, what's called a concurrent decision that says, while I agree with the results, I also agree with the liberals that we can't really let Congress decide who stays on and off ballots federally. So again, you go, well, then who does decide? I like a minimalist court. I'm not saying that that's a bad decision. I like when the court just rules enough to say, this situation, we're not going to really apply anything more to it.
You don't want to open the floodgates of ramifications.
But you do have to give a reason for your decision. Yeah. And you can't just say, well, Colorado, no, and then go home.
I think I could make a conservative argument for Amy Coney Barrett's decision. I feel like I could. And I think that argument could be then who is on and off the ballot would then be at the whim of the Congress and whoever controls the Congress, which could give, whoever's in control of the Congress control over who gets elected and who doesn't. So rather than in Colorado, Colorado says no Trump. Well, Missouri says, hey, no Biden on our ballot. And then you got only a handful of states, which was the big concern of the Supreme Court. You would have Congress saying, okay, we are controlled. It's Democrat. Donald Trump is off the ballot in every state. And then Donald Trump doesn't have a chance to win.
And that's a very good point. And that's why I don't necessarily want to throw out their dissent, because I don't think it's a terrible dissent. I just think that you need to define a little bit more about why. Okay, fine, Colorado can't keep them off the ballot. Fine, Maine can't, and Illinois now can't. But if you're going to say no,
give a reason.
Put a little foundation there and give us a reason why the conservatives or the constitutional side of the Supreme Court did give a reason, and they said it's because states can't decide federal elections. They certainly can't decide who's on the ballot for federal elections. So we do have that decision. It's really not up for debate anymore. It is a Supreme Court decision. It is a 9-0 decision that you will see Donald Trump on the ballot no matter which state you live in. We have a lot to get to in this show. So, like I said, Zack Smith, legal fellow at Heritage, is going to be on in the middle of the 1 o'clock hour. We're going to talk some more Supreme Court stuff in the middle of the 2 o'clock hour if you want to catch up on everything that has been happening, not just that case, but all the stuff over the last couple weeks, because there's been some stuff, and I like to stay on top of it. Between now and then, though, we got Wiggins America at 12:45, which is always fun when Wiggins is hosting.
You keep teeing that up, and I'm like, oh, man, this is no pressure.
Because Brad Range then fills in. We kind of just play musical chairs. I am, of course, filling in. I'm Ryan Wiggins, filling in for Annie Fry just for today. She'll be back tomorrow. In the very next segment, though, here's why you should stick around for this. Do you remember a show that I think was on True TV from about 2014 to 2016, roughly? It was called Adam Ruins Everything. It was an entertaining show. I'll give them that. It was also real annoying because they had a lot of hard left opinions.
Yes.
That they did not have anybody ever challenge and were so bad. I mean, some of them were thoughtful things.
Yeah.
Other ones were just terrible. I found an episode of this show that's going to prove why we're in the situation that we're in right now with the southern border. From ideology that comes from these random shows, these random political talk shows. This one, Adam Ruins Everything, from 2015. Stick around. I'll play all the clips, and you'll be like, wow, that's coming up next.
You're listening to The Annie Fry Show on St. Louis's home for conservative talk. Find the podcast, on-demand audio, and more at 971talk.com/Annie.
I'm embarrassed to say this. I've been using deodorant on my armpits for 30 years, and anytime I noticed odor anywhere else, I thought I needed another shower, I wasn't clean, or I felt like there was something wrong with me. And then my gynecologist told me about Lumi. It's a whole body deodorant for pits, feet, and privates that controls odor anywhere and everywhere on your body. Since Lumi, I never have to worry about body odor ever again, anywhere on my body. And that reassurance is worth every penny.
There's a special offer for listeners. Use code 300 and get an extra $5 off a Lumi starter pack that comes with a solid stick, cream tube, free product of your choice, and ships free with code 300. LUME deodorant.com, code 300 for an extra $5 off a Lumi starter pack. With over 200,000 5-star reviews, I am so sure you're going to love it. Or return it for free. That's LUME deodorant.com, code 300 for an extra $5 off a Lumi starter pack. LUME deodorant.com, code 300.
We're entering remodeling season. If you've considered new windows, let me recommend my friends at Window World. Mark Kotz here. Here's the great thing about Window World. Not just the preferred window of our hometown St. Louis Blues, they're now the official window of the world champion Kansas City Chiefs. So if you're considering replacement windows, this is the company you want to work with. I'm a satisfied customer. I've got 2 other windows in my master bathroom. We couldn't be happier with those. They have a lifetime warranty that covers all the parts, all the glass breakage and labor. There's a reason why in just over 20 years of business, they've improved the look and thermal efficiency of 72,000 plus customers in the greater St. Louis area. A Window World is fantastic. The windows are so durable. Not only do they stand behind their windows, at the showroom, they actually stood on a window right in front of me. You're going to love it. 314-993-1800. That's 314-993-1800 or windowworld.com.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply. Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's corporate cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/free. Ramp.com/free. RAMP.com/free.
Cardinals single game tickets for the 2024 season are on sale now and start at just $6. The schedule is filled with great matchups, including 2 weekend series with the Cubs, plus weekend matchups with the Dodgers, Red Sox, and more. The promo schedule is packed with fan favorites too, like jerseys, bobbleheads, player tributes, and so much more. There's something for everyone in the 2024 season. Get your tickets now at Cardinals.com.
This is Lars Nootbaar, St. Louis Cardinals for the Lou.
Here's a rookie debut you won't want to miss. An all-inclusive experience that's new to Busch Stadium in 2024. The Budweiser 703 Club salutes Albert Pujols' legendary 703 career home run. This new premium club features an open field view of the game, plus a full-service bar and elevated ballpark fare like stone-fired pizza, fresh pasta, a dessert station, a full nacho bar, and more. For tickets or more details, visit Cardinals.com/703Club.
You're listening to the Annie Fry Show live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. Getting in your comfort zone with a new HVAC system is more affordable than you think, thanks to 0% financing for up to 72 months. For details and a free estimate, visit aircomfortservice.com.
It's what's happening.
The death of a nursing student.
Right now.
Created sanctuary city status.
Keeping you informed.
You need to resign.
And up to date.
Hunter testifies on business deals.
St. Louis's home for conservative talk. 97.1 FM Talk. This is the Annie Fry Show. Follow Annie on Twitter at Annie Fry Show.
What I can say is, look, you're going to hear the president on Thursday speak about the State of the Union, obviously, speak to Congress, but also millions of Americans who are going to be watching. This is a president that has done more in his 3 years as president than most presidents have done in their 2 terms.
I think I've gone full circle on Karine Jean-Pierre. I think I actually love her. The stuff she says is so funny and so obviously false that she's actually great to have in that position. Welcome to the Annie Fry Show. This is Ryan Wiggins filling in just for today for Annie. She'll be back tomorrow. Karine Jean-Pierre needs her own quote museum that you can walk through and just see, stuff that right now we know that it's false, that most presidents have not done in 2 terms what Joe Biden has done just in, a couple of years. But in 10 years, it's going to be great to look back on quotes that she's made and just see how ridiculous they were. So I mentioned at the end of the last segment that there was a TV show that ran from 2014 roughly to 2016, may have, bled into 2017, but they weren't making new episodes by then, called Adam Ruins Everything. This was on True TV. And I got to say, as a person who's done some television production, it was a really slick show. And that's the trouble with politically minded, slick TV shows, is that you can watch a documentary film, for instance, that can basically convince you of anything because they're so slick. Now, it doesn't really matter what the topic. You can pick any topic you want and decide, I think I'm going to try to convince people of this. And if you have their captive attention for a half hour if it's a show, an hour and a half if it's a movie, you can pretty much do anything you want, and you're going to at least convince some people, if not everybody, but you're going to make people think about it for sure. So that's what Adam Ruins Everything was. I mean, sometimes he's a comedian, so sometimes the show was pretty funny, and I got to give him credit that even when they were making political points, kind of like Jon Stewart, kind of like Colbert, when they were more daily show than late night, their stuff is entertaining and funny, and that's part of the charm of it. And then they're kind of slipping in political points too. But the point was supposed to be comedy. Well, with Adam Ruins Everything, it seemed like the point was a little bit more the political talking points. I'm going to play what I believe to be the genesis of the left's hatred for controlling the border. Now, I'm not saying this guy was controlling the entire narrative. I am saying that this stuff was everywhere, And this is a great example of what they were saying in 2015.
Nada. Building a wall would actually increase the number of illegal immigrants in America.
What? How could it possibly?
Here, I'll show you.
Okay, slick graphics. But that's the point of this whole episode. I'm going to play it one more time just because it's so amazing.
Nada. Building a wall would actually increase the number of illegal immigrants in America.
What? How could it possibly?
Here, I'll show you.
Building a wall would increase the number of illegal immigrants in America. Now, amidst all of these things, don't picture yourself in 2015 watching this. Picture yourself right now, which should be pretty easy because it happens to be right now. This is the border situation that we have right now. We are in a bad, bad place with the southern border. You don't need to know that. We've talked about that till we're blue in the face. I've got a report right here that says more than 8 million migrants will soon be living in the U.S. illegally. And this is just from this isn't a right-wing article. This is this is probably AP quoting government data, which means it's probably low, which means 8 million is probably a low number. Everybody we talk to, in fact, says, okay, here's the government data, but here's probably what it actually is. So where do these things get their genesis? Because they have ruined the left, the Biden administration, the people pulling the puppet strings have absolutely ruined the idea of having a secure border. They haven't just allowed everybody in, they've encouraged it. Where does this stuff start? Well, it starts with bad ideas. It doesn't take place immediately. It starts with ideas like this show, Adam Ruins Everything, again, from 2015.
Just building the wall would be practically impossible. This is where it would be.
Oh, no, el perrito.
It would have to stretch over 2,000 miles of rough terrain. And all that destruction is monstrously expensive. Just building the wall would cost between $15 and $25 billion.
Ay, el duende tiene magia demónica.
It would easily be one of the single most expensive pieces of infrastructure in American history, costing as much as 20 Hoover dams or NASA's entire annual budget.
So let me not only dissuade you from the idea of a border wall, but also my concern is that it would cost too much. We just don't want to spend that money. Again, think about that through the lens of now, not just with the amount of money that we've spent on God knows what in the last 5-8 years, but think about how much it's going to cost us now that we didn't build the wall. Here's another argument from the same show, 2015.
Yes, they are, because it's estimated that between 27 and 40% of all undocumented immigrants in America came here on planes.
I forgot about planes.
These immigrants didn't sneak over the border. They came here legally, through passport control, then just overstayed their visas. And guess what? A border wall's not going to stop them because, reminder, planes can fly over walls.
You fools! You forgot about planes!
So it's funny. These massive caravans that are coming through. Now, he's making a point there that's not invalid. It's just that he's saying, well, no matter what you do,
they'll just buy planes and
they're just going to fly over it anyway. No, just the numbers are staggering. I mean, the numbers that we're talking about are so unbelievable that to think that the one problem that it wouldn't solve is overstayed migrant visas. Okay, I mean, if that's your big concern, fine, but that's not what we're dealing with right now.
Like when people land off of a plane, when they land from a foreign country into a U.S. airport, that is called a port of entry.
It's also legal.
Yes. Or if it's illegal, you're deported. But it's also the legal way to declare asylum is to buy a plane ticket, fly into the United States, and say, I need asylum.
So they address the idea of deportation as saying, well, even that's about, no matter what idea you come up with, in 2015, the left was saying, nope, it's a bad idea. Why? Because they had it figured out. They were going to do things better. Do you think they're doing better?
Look, we already have what has to be the most militarized border between any two nations at peace. So the real issue of immigration isn't the people coming in. The fact is, they're already here. Nearly 1 out of every 30 people in America is an unauthorized immigrant. The only thing a wall stops is a discussion of actual solutions.
Oh my God, Adam, you're right. The wall isn't the answer.
Oh, good. I'm so glad I could help.
Millions of people are already here. We need to deport them. Yes, deportation is the answer.
So we've gotten to the, and it's a comedic end to that episode, but we've gotten to the point where, unfortunately, because of all these terrible ideas, which you can say, oh, it's this random TV show, it doesn't do anything. It does do something. It's a national TV show. And this is real ideology that was pervasive in 2015 and 16 because Trump was talking about building a wall. They came out in full force against the idea of cracking down on illegal immigration by giving you examples of illegal immigration. They're like, well, here's other illegal immigration happening. Well, what's your solution for that? Nothing? Yeah. It's just nothing.
Well, the other thing is, too, whenever you communicate, like, this is why it is the way it is. When you communicate to a group of people that, hey, there's no consequences for doing this. If you come in, what they're going to do is they're going to give you a court date and send you on into the country. Well, that word travels, and people go, oh, hey, they're not going to send me back. It's not going to be a waste of a trip. I'm going to get into the United States, and I can or cannot show up to that court date 3 years down the road.
Exactly.
It incentivizes it, and you get more of what you incentivize.
This kind of stuff has done exactly that. And I'll play one more clip for you. This is Adam bringing in a Princeton professor. So, of course, we're talking about very much elite thought in the United States. This is what they were saying at the time.
It's counterintuitive, but building a wall wouldn't stop people from coming in. It would actually stop them from going back.
In fact, the whole idea of building a border wall is misguided. The Mexican economy is doing quite well right now, and population growth has slowed way down. So there's not much pressure to immigrate. The number of illegal border crossings is actually at an all-time low.
Oh, okay. Well, then we shouldn't deal with it.
What year was this from?
2015.
So who was president then?
Barack Obama.
Who was one of the most strict deporting presidents in U.S. history?
I'm gonna guess it was Barack
Obama. So whenever you're deporting people, immigration goes down.
Again, this isn't just a TV show. He's interviewing a Princeton professor here. These are baked-in ideas, and we talk about ideology a lot on the show because that's kind of the point. That's where things start. They don't end there; they start there. And when we talk about ideology that says you should not really what he's arguing for in this entire episode is not regulating anything. He's just saying the things Trump is saying, because at the time he was running for office.
Right.
The things that guy's saying, they wouldn't work. Well, okay, then what's your solution? Because he says at the beginning that you don't really want illegal immigration. I think we've moved past that point now, but they don't even want to say that anymore. Well, you know what? I reversed that because Biden has reversed that. He's spent 3 years doing the opposite of trying to secure a border and attempting to open it with all the asylum rules. I mean, there's reports that different organizations, maybe even government-sponsored, have been giving out pamphlets south of the border to tell people exactly. I think actually Jim Carafano talked about this, that there are pamphlets being handed out to illegal immigrants who haven't crossed the border yet, so they're not necessarily illegal at that point, but they will be soon. And when they cross the border, here's exactly what you say. You claim asylum. They're coaching people on how to stay here using the laws and then not enforcing the ones that they can't really get around. They've done this for 3 years and made an absolute debacle out of basically all of our systems, whether you talk about schools, you talk about our tax dollars going to places, housing people, fentanyl, drugs, you talk about sex trafficking. It's been a nightmare for 3 years, and it's underreported because the mainstream media won't touch it. But all of a sudden now it's polling poorly. America is catching up and going, wait a minute, those ideas that maybe were baked into this cake from 2015, 2016, maybe those things don't actually work. And now your politicians, your leftist politicians, are catching up and saying stuff like this.
Every day between now and November, the American people are going to know that the only reason the border is not secure is Donald Trump and his MAGA Republican friends.
It's really amazing to hear when you just take a minute to have a little bit of perspective about a problem that everybody knows is a problem. 8 million new people illegally in the country. We don't know who they are. We don't know why they're here. Most of them are probably peaceful, but it's opened the floodgates for drugs and sex trafficking, and not just regular, but child sex trafficking. I mean, these are heartbreaking things that have skyrocketed in the last 3 years. And we can talk all the day about trying to house these people and trying to feed people and trying to help them get on their feet and the humanitarian side of this. But ultimately, the humanitarian side of this has been overlooked because it's not popular, because it's gone the wrong direction. This is the stuff that drives me crazy that I wanted to bring up today, because this is supposed to be where liberals shine. This is traditionally where the bleeding heart, and that may be a personality trait. You may not have a political bone in your body, but you have that personality trait that you're supposed to be the humanitarian. Well, you're supposed to be stepping up now and making a big deal out of what's happening with our border that wasn't for 4 years under Donald Trump, but is now. And they're not. The AOCs of the world who cried when it was Donald Trump and kids in cages and these phrases that they made up. These are supposed to be the people who step up now and say the problem's worse, and they've gone away. Short break here. We're going to come back with what we call Wiggins America, but since I'm hosting the show today, it's going to be Brad taking it over. I'm sure he'll do great, so stick around, see what he's got for the Monday Roundup next.
This is the Annie Fry Show. Find the podcast, on-demand audio, and more at 971talk.com/Annie.
Stewart's American Mortgage is the home of the bagel loan, and you are one phone call, one text message away from the best mortgage situation that you can get. 314-324-4440. That's 314-324-4440. Stewie is the only place you can get the bagel loan. And the bagel loan, he named it that way because what do bagels look like? Zeros. And what do you pay in closing costs? Zero. So you get the bagel loan from Stewie. It's the only place you can get it. And you're going to be set up to get that mortgage secured quickly. He can close in less than 2 days. And he can also help you with generating your pre-approval letter. Once you get pre-approved, you can go onto his website and generate those at your own need, so you don't have to wait on a third party and potentially miss the opportunity to get an offer in. You know the drill. 314-324-4440. No closing costs with the bagel loan, only at Stewart's American Mortgage. 314-324-4440. You can Google the bagel loan for more information. It's Stewart's American Mortgage, NMLS number 226715.
When you're selling your home, you want the most money and the least hassle. That's exactly what you get when you work with my friend and trusted realtor, Gloria Liu, with Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Mark Cox here. Selling your home is one of the biggest financial decisions you'll ever make. That's why having an expert on your side is crucial. Right now, other agents know that some sellers will choose the agent that tells them the highest price. This can be a dangerous strategy. Most of the time, it ends up being an empty promise. Gloria doesn't make empty promises. She makes guarantees in writing. It's simple. Gloria will guarantee to sell your home at your agreed-to price and time frame, or she'll buy it. Guaranteed in writing. Take it from me. Pick up the phone and call Gloria Liu at 314-325-6888. That's 314-325-6888. Or visit her online anytime and tell her you heard Mark Cox talking about it. GloriaHasTheBuyers.com.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-652-5241 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-652-5241. That's 800-652-5241. What do you have to lose? Call 800-652-5241. Again, 800-652-5241.
AMCO presents Bet You Didn't Know.
Bet you didn't know that your car's transmission is made up of 800 pieces. Also, bet you didn't know that AMCO's fixed over 40 million transmissions, and that AMCO offers a nationwide warranty.
AMCO offers easy payment plan options for most any credit situation, so you can fix it fast and pay it off slow at AMCO.
That's AMCO, AA, MCO.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements.
STL Today is named Under Law 2023's best St. Louis law firm. We'll continue to make a difference, one case at a time.
When you're injured, call Under Law at 314 or 618-9000000.
Today's YouTube live chat poll, do the efforts to keep Trump off the ballot help him in the November election? Yes or no? Now, don't just vote yes or no. Go on to the Annie Fry YouTube page. You'll see us on there live. Click on that. The poll will pop up in the chat. Vote in the chat. And then tell us why you voted yes or no in the chat. We want to hear from you, and we might feature your comment later on in the show. The time is 12:47. This time check is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning.
It's time for a $98 furnace tune-up.
Critical thinking in critical times. This is St. Louis's home for conservative talk. 97.1 FM Talk. Everyone is welcome. This is the Annie Fry Show. Interact with Annie on Facebook. The Annie Fry Show.
We're looking at it as we're hoping for a good competitive showing. That's always been the case in every step, is can we continue to stay competitive? When 70% of Americans say they don't want Donald Trump or Joe Biden, you keep going to make sure people have a choice.
Wiggins! Oh! Monday Roundup! Yeah! This here's the wildest ride in the wilderness!
All right, Brad is taking over Wiggins America, bringing you everything you need to know from the weekend.
Well, Ryan, I got some bad news. I don't have the whip sound effect.
That's okay.
That's a bummer.
We don't have to have the whip today.
I'll just go whoosh.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, so the first thing, were you paying attention to any of the primaries over the weekend?
Heck yeah.
And were you paying attention to any of the caucuses over the weekend?
Yes, indeed. One was local.
So one of the local caucuses, who won that?
Trump.
Trump won. I didn't get to see the actual results because to me it's like Trump caucus in Missouri.
Yeah, they were a little hard to find. You had to watch local news more than national to find that.
But I feel like that's because it was pretty much a foregone conclusion.
It was. Yeah, everybody's like, no, duh.
But Republican challenger to Donald Trump, Nikki Haley, put her first W on the board this weekend.
Where was that, Brad?
Oh, that'd be Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia. She won that, meaning she secured 19 delegates.
So let me ask you, is Nikki Haley winning Washington, D.C. better for her because she has a W on the board, or worse overall for her?
Well, I would think this year it plays poorly for her. Yeah. Because that means that she's in with the quote-unquote in crowd. It makes her look like the swamp creature that Donald Trump is trying to paint her as. Donald Trump won D.C. in 2020, but that's because there was nobody else running.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who won in 2015, I guess it would have been?
The primary for the Republicans?
Yeah.
I'm going to guess Marco
third.
Rubio?
Rubio won. Do you know who finished second?
Cruz.
John Kasich.
Oh, gosh, no. I wouldn't have guessed that.
So John Kasich won that. And then in 2020, Joe Biden won the District of Columbia with 92% of the vote. So that, Republican stronghold. The article here says that there's only like 23,000 registered Republicans in the entire district.
Yeah, you don't have any of them. They're all swamp. That's the first thing I thought of when I saw that this weekend is, oh, you don't even have to write the story.
No.
Everybody's going to think the same thing.
But not having to write the story didn't stop Donald Trump from not writing writing the story.
Congratulations to Nikki Haley.
Yeah, this is the congratulations. congratulating her on being named Queen of the Swamp by lobbyists and D.C. insiders that want to protect the failed status quo.
She's probably not. I mean, he's probably not wrong. The number of registered Republicans in D.C. probably are all political animals of one kind or another.
Sure.
It's not just your random shop owner.
Yeah.
That is a deep. That might be the bluest area in the United States.
Yeah, which is really unfortunate.
That's terrible. That's not good for us.
Okay. So that's that story.
Okay.
Okay, the second story. This past Sunday marked the anniversary of, I think it's the 59th anniversary of Bloody Sunday. And to mark that anniversary, Merrick Garland went to the Tabernacle Baptist Church in Selma, Alabama to mark this. And he had some things to say.
The right to vote is still under attack. And that is why the Justice Department is fighting back. That is why one of the first things I did when I came into office was to double the size of the voting section of the Civil Rights Division. That is why we are challenging efforts by states and jurisdictions to implement discriminatory, burdensome, and unnecessary restrictions on access to the ballot, including those related to mail-in voting, the use of drop boxes, and voter ID requirements. That is why we are working to block the adoption of discriminatory redistricting plans that dilute the vote of black voters and other voters of color.
Okay, so he named a couple things there. He says the right to vote is still under attack, and he's like, they're going after the black voters by trying to keep them from voting by instituting these things. He says that their right to vote is under threat from gerrymandering. Now, I don't know, you live in Illinois. Have you paid attention to how they draw maps in Illinois?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's gerrymandering. Now, Illinois is that Republican stronghold, right?
Well, thank God he's going to get the Attorney General of the United States, who's a Democrat, is going to come after Illinois.
Yeah,
now.
Tell them, hey, stop drawing these weird-shaped districts. So gerrymandering to me is a wash. But the one that really always gets me, and he says this is meant to keep black voters from voting, is the pushback against a voter ID law. He's like, that's meant to keep black people from voting. My question, and I always have to ask this question, what are you saying about black voters then? Are you Yeah.
Because you're assuming you are basically belittling people based on their skin color, in this case black, and saying you cannot get an ID on your own. You are saying you are stupid is what you're saying.
Yeah, you can't get an ID. You don't know how to use the internet. You don't know where the DMV is. You don't know any of these things, and you need my help to keep that from keeping you from voting. Now, you know who Ami Horowitz is he does his man on the street videos, and he did one where he went to Berkeley or someplace like that.
That is the best video regarding this topic I have ever seen.
And then he went to Harlem, and he went there, and he asked them the same question. So he's like, are voter IDs laws racist? And they're like, yeah. Well, he's like, why are they racist? He's like, well, a black person may not have access or even know
He's
where
talking to white liberals.
White liberals on this college campus. They may not know where this is, and they don't know how to get an ID and all this other stuff. And then he goes to Harlem. He's like, hey, do you guys know where the voter ID or where the DMV is? Yeah. Do you have an ID? And she's like, I got mine right here. You know, they all look at him
Are
like,
you incapable of getting an ID based on your skin color?
They all look at him like he's absolutely like, what a stupid question. And he's like, I'm just doing a video, ma'am. You know?
Yeah.
So if you ever get a chance to, don't do it now because we're doing the show, but if you get a chance, go watch that video from Ami Horowitz, Horowitz, I think is how you spell his last name. It's a great video. But I call it the soft, and I'm not the only one that calls it this, but the soft bigotry of low expectations. You think that a group of people are too stupid to be able to do something that other groups of people can. Voter ID laws are not racist. Saying that they're racist is racist.
Yeah, and gerrymandering, by the way, since that was the other topic he brought up, you're right in that this is not a Republican states do this and Democrat states don't. Do you think... I mean, honestly, and I'm talking to people on the right and the left, anybody, especially the left. Do you think that if all of a sudden in this coming election that, let's say black males mainly, because that's the polling is suggesting, let's say, and this isn't going to happen, but let's say black males in 2024 decide overwhelmingly to vote Republican. Do you think that gerrymandering would not reflect that in Democrat states? Because that's what Merrick Garland is saying, that this is a racist practice. It is completely a political practice.
Yes.
It has no bearing on race, except that sometimes certain racial groups vote more for one party than the other. But if that switched, those parties would switch. That is all that matters, is the party affiliation. It does not matter what racial makeup they are.
The only concern that they have, the only color they're concerned with in gerrymandering is the color of the district, blue or red.
Blue or red. That is it. Well, Brad, we have reached the end of this hour, so thank you for doing Wiggins America. A couple of people in the chat have asked the question, where is Annie today? So if you missed the beginning of the show, we addressed that Annie is just off for a scheduled day. No big deal. We had this scheduled for a while. I'm filling in, and will be for the rest of the day. Coming up in the next hour, Zack Smith, legal fellow at Heritage, is going to help break down this Supreme Court win for Trump and America. 9-0 victory. We'll talk about that with him in the next hour. Stick around.
You've been listening to the very popular Wellness One for many years, Saturdays and Sundays on 97.1 FM Talk. We're happy to share that we've expanded the show to 4 times a week. Yes, 4 times every weekend. Saturday at 10 a.m., Saturday at 8 p.m., Sunday at 9 a.m., and Sunday at 2 p.m. It's the same great show designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you a common sense, science-based strategy for a healthy life. So join TJ and Aaron for Wellness One. Now 4 times a week on 97.1 FM Talk.
At Neovitin, we are all about supporting your nutrition, and that's why we are excited about our new Neovitin Omega-3 supplement. Neovitin Omega-3 is formulated with 1,200 milligrams of omega-3 fatty acids to help support healthy hearts. Our high-quality omega-3 fish oils are sourced from wild-caught fish and tested for heavy metals. With our convenient monthly subscription, you can get Neovitin Omega-3 delivered right to your door every month with no long-term obligations. Support your daily nutrition and sign up for a Neovitin Omega-3 subscription at neovitin.com today.
The IRS definitely ramped up operations since the pandemic slowed them down, and activity only increases from here. Hi, this is Lance Story with the Lance Story Law Firm. If you're currently under audit or you haven't paid your taxes in the past, now's the time to call the Lance Story Law Firm. The IRS has a published Taxpayer Bill of Rights, which says you have the right to retain legal representation. Because IRS problems are legal problems, and the Lance Story Law Firm focuses specifically on addressing IRS issues for our clients. It's all we do. We get out in front of the IRS, devise the best resolution plan, and work to make sure you're able to take advantage of every program you're qualified to receive. So before you send money to some out-of-town, high-pressure company, call the Lance Story Law Firm. We're local, located right here in St. Louis, or visit Lance, DRURYlaw.com to schedule your free consultation with your local tax resolution law firm, the Lance Story Law Firm, 314-260-6120.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Listen, you've been making house payments for years, right? And right now, your home's value has never been higher, right? That means you're likely sitting on a small fortune in equity. Good for you. That's cash that you could use to help secure your retirement, solve all your financial burdens, enable you to travel, everything you want. The catch is, you're not ready to move. No problem. You don't have to with the TrueHold Sell and Stay Leaseback program. This is a genius financial strategy. You sell your home to TrueHold while its value is high. You bank all that equity in cash now, and you can stay as long as you like with an easy, affordable lease. And TrueHold pays property taxes, insurance, and maintenance. TrueHold unlocks your wealth without uprooting your life. Get a TrueHold offer now while your home's value is sky high. Call 1-855-300-9993. That's 1-855-300-9993. Or visit TrueHold.com. The smarter, faster way to cash out without moving out. TrueHold.com.
KFTK FM Florissant. From the Under Law Injury Lawyers, GetJim.com studio. 97.1 FM Talk. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
He's back on the ballot on Lisa Brady, Fox News, and former President Trump says a unanimous Supreme Court decision can help unify the country.
You cannot take somebody out of a race. The voters can take the person out of the race very quickly, but a court shouldn't be doing that, and the Supreme Court saw that.
He was being removed from the primary ballot in Colorado, Maine, and Illinois over the Constitution's insurrection clause, but today's decision stops that.
In an unsigned opinion, the court concluded states do not have power to enforce that provision for federal office holders, especially the presidency. Four justices, Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, Amy Coney Barrett, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, agreed with the opinion, but say the majority went further than needed in ruling federal legislation is required to enforce the insurrection clause.
Fox's Jared Halpern in Washington. Today's ruling comes on the eve of what could be a big night for the former president.
The Trump team telling me that, yes, they are expecting a huge avalanche of delegates come Super Tuesday, come tomorrow, and they're hoping to clinch that nomination as early as next week, next Tuesday.
Fox's Aisha Hasni. 16 states hold primaries tomorrow, and the North Dakota caucuses are today. Nikki Haley won her first primary over the weekend in Washington, D.C. A guilty plea in a classified documents leak. 22-year-old, now former Massachusetts Air National Guard member Jack Teixeira admits leaking Pentagon documents on social media platform Discord.
This guilty plea brings accountability, and it brings a measure of closure to a chapter that created profound harms for our nation's security.
Massachusetts Assistant Attorney General Matthew Olson. Teixeira is expected to serve up to 16 years in prison, but in exchange for his plea, he will not be further charged under the Espionage Act. Some of the documents related to the ongoing war in Ukraine. America is listening to Fox News.
I'm Chris Riccobono, founder of Untuck It. When I started the brand, I wanted to make the perfect fitting untucked shirt. And over the years, we changed the way guys think about how they dress. The secret was our obsession over fabric quality, listening to what our customers wanted and making everything fit perfectly. Our fit team has mastered pants, polos, sports coats, and more, so we've got you covered from head to toe. Try what millions of guys already know and love. Shop today at untuckit.com or our 80-plus stores worldwide.
Can't sleep with this cold.
Honey.
Honey?
Honey, you need NyQuil Severe Honey.
NyQuil Severe Honey gives you powerful cold and flu symptom relief with a dreamy honey taste.
Feeling better, honey? Honey? I'll take that as a yes.
Try NyQuil Severe Honey for powerful cold and flu symptom relief. NyQuil Severe with honey flavor. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, fever. Honeylicious, best sleep with a cold. Medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Partly to mostly sunny skies, windy and warm again this afternoon. 78 for the high, close to a record tonight. Windy and mild, but let's look for scattered showers and thunderstorms. A couple could be on the strong side and starting to take hold fairly early in the evening. 55 for the low. On Tuesday, a couple of showers and thunder showers in the morning. Otherwise, mostly cloudy, slightly cooler, 63. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
Join us this Friday in Ballwin at Holy Infant Catholic Church. Fish Fry Fridays, a Mark Reardon Show Lenten tradition. This week in Ballwin at Holy Infant Catholic Church. For more details and to see the menu, visit 971talk.com/events.
Hey, it's Tom Ackerman. Where do you go for your annual eye health examination? Ophthalmology Associates, of course. Doctors Greg Birdie and Ranjan Malhotra. Dr. Robert Bersati, he's the one I saw, or Dr. Andrew Royer. They are available to you and are there to take care of all your vision needs at Ophthalmology Associates. They're on Manchester Road, a half mile west of 270. Your vision is their business at Ophthalmology Associates. In fact, many of their patients are doctors themselves. That's why they call themselves the doctors, Ophthalmology Associates. Are your eyes itchy and scratchy? It could be more than just allergies. They're the leaders in dry eye diagnosis and treatment. They're the leaders in LASIK and discussing those procedures. And if you're having difficulty reading or driving at night, you have glare from oncoming headlights, could be early signs of cataracts, and they can talk to you about multifocal lens implants. Ophthalmology Associates, youridoc.com.
I was having a lot of sinus infections. My sinuses were clogged, pressure, headaches.
Linda suffered for years with chronic sinus infections.
You don't feel like doing anything. When you feel like your head is completely clogged, all you want to do is just lay down and sleep. And the pressure, it's just not fun, always walking around with a headache.
Now, her issues are gone. How? A minimally invasive procedure done in the office of St. Louis Sinus Centers called balloon sinuplasty.
I really did not know what it was like to feel like you're really breathing and not being so clogged up. I would do it again in a heartbeat, and I would definitely recommend it for someone else.
Do you suffer with chronic sinus infections, facial pain, pressure, congestion? Find out if balloon sinuplasty is the solution for you. Set an appointment today with St. Louis Sinus Centers. Call 314-332-2885. 314-332-2885. 314-332-2885. That's 314-332-2885.
The reviews are in on Hampton Manor of Wentzville. Mark Cox here. Everybody loves what they see at Hampton Manor, this brand new senior living community just north of the Lake St. Louis exit at Highway 70. Schedule your tour today at wentzvilleassistedliving.com.
Experience the beauty of custom crafted windows that enhance your home's aesthetics and energy efficiency. Look no further than Infinity from Marvin, proudly brought to you by Lakeside Renovation and Design. Why choose Infinity? These windows are not just strong, they're 8 times stronger than vinyl, providing unmatched security for your home. Plus, with Lakeside's expert installation, you're guaranteed precision and perfection. Visit our showroom or call Lakeside Renovation and Design today. Elevate your home with Infinity from Marvin, where strength meets style.
Mark Cox here. If you're nearing retirement or already retired, call my friends Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw with the Retirement Advisory Group. They'll show you how to link to the market without the risk. They're the official financial advisors of my show. Go online to retirementkey.com.
The Annie Fry Show YouTube live chat poll of the day is sponsored by Ruler Foods. Low prices, no coupons. Ruler Foods.
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
Thank God someone here knows what you're talking about.
That's us. That's right. Gotta love this American ride.
All right, you need to take the time and get the full picture.
Come on, turn the radio on. It's Saturday and I won't be long.
Don't get me wrong. I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom. It is Anchor Man, not Anchor Lady.
What do you want from me? I'm not America's sweetheart.
Goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
I'm not America's sweetheart.
This is the Annie Fry Show.
Well, I'm checking the temperature right now. It says from our cozy studio that it's 75 degrees outside and very windy.
Oh.
That sounds awesome. I kind of wish that we could open these windows or step outside. But if we did that, we're on the 3rd floor. We would not land well from our stepping outside from here. This is the Annie Fry Show. I am Ryan Wiggins, just filling in today. This was a scheduled day off. We had this planned for a couple weeks. This weekend was awesome. And this is normally where we talk to Stephen Moore. He's not going to be here. We're going to talk some finances here in a second, though. But this weekend was... Now, we've had some nice temperatures even before Saturday and Sunday. But it was something about this weekend. Stepping outside, you were like, things are turning around.
It's spring weather.
Things are changing. And I don't know what it is. With the spring cleaning thing that everybody talks about, I thought, oh, that's just whatever. I totally do that now. The first nice couple days, I'm like, well, time to go out in the garage and just start cleaning. And I got so much done this weekend. It just, walking around and seeing people just walking their dogs, and everybody just wanted to be outside. So hopefully you got to be outside a little bit.
Yeah, you said out walking your dogs with Annie on vacation. I'm dog sitting for her.
Oh, that's right.
And so right next to my house is a nice park with a nice big trail, walking trail, biking trail, whatever around it. And so my wife always takes our dog over there and walks. Well, 2 dogs are too much for her, so I got to take Annie's dog for a walk. And I asked my wife, I was like, do you think we could do the big loop? And she goes, no, our dog wouldn't make it. My dog is lazy. But Annie's dog is an energetic dog. Also, my dog likes to go 3 steps, stop and smell something, go 3 steps, stop and smell something. Mm-hmm. Annie's dog is not about that life. So me and Annie's dog, we did the whole big loop. It took us about 45 minutes. My wife's and our dog did a smaller loop, and I caught up to them, and we were able to walk back to our house together, and they did their regular circuit. So we were able to walk around, but it was so beautiful outside. The kids were playing soccer on the soccer fields and all that other stuff. And I'll tell you what was really interesting. They got those turf fields. You could feel the heat of the turf fields blowing across, and it was just a nice warm breeze coming across it.
Oh, man. Don't even get me started on the turf fields in the summer.
Oh, I bet they're awful.
Now... You play it in the spring and fall, and the winter's great because turf fields, you never have to cut them. You always know it's going to be nice. It's a little springy. It's great. Mm-hmm. In the summer, there are certain fields, and I'm calling out you, Belleville. There are certain fields throughout the St. Louis area that are better than others, and some that aren't. that when you play even one game, and I'm talking short games, because they don't play long games in the summer. They play like the 20-minute short games, 3v3 games. That after 20 minutes, the kids' feet are so hot that they have to go like sit in the, the little like trays that you can put your feet in. They're either a bucket of water or like an actual little spa thing.
Yeah.
The kids have to like dunk their feet in water because they're so dang hot.
Yeah.
That I tried. So I'm not a coach, but once in a while, assistant coach won't be at a game, and a dad will have to go help. And so I've done that. Well, I was wearing sandals for one of those games.
Whoops.
And it was killing me. I had to basically like you can't see what I'm doing, but like step.
Yeah.
And I couldn't stop because no matter what I did, it was just killing my feet.
Yeah, I play softball on turf fields, and in the summer, of course, when the sun goes down, it's different. They cool off. But during the day, you're talking if it's 95, you'll be well up into the hundreds at turf level as far as temperature goes, 100, 120, something like that.
Yeah. Well, we're jealous of you today because we're inside, and if you are outside, if you are in your car, man, if you got your windows down, it is just awesome. This time of year is so great. I did see though that Dave Murray, and this is like a month ago that he said this, that he said at the end of February through March, mid-March, we're going to have just awesome weather. You're going to think spring is here.
It's a false spring.
And he said by the end of March, though, and I haven't looked at the extended forecast to see if he was right. We'll see. He said at the end of March, it is going to turn, and you're going to think, oh, man, what happened to spring? We're still in the middle of winter. So far, he's been dead on. So we'll see.
What that says is go enjoy it while you can. So go for a walk and listen to the Annie Fry Show.
Absolutely. Keep the Annie Fry Show on. That is how we pay our bills. Let's talk about paying some bills. That was a great segment. Segue. I'm just so surprised by that. I didn't even mean to do it.
You did radio stuff.
I did it.
You did it to yourself.
I always do that to Annie, and now I'm doing it to me. This is normally where we talk to Stephen Moore about, everything financial. I brought up a couple stories here. One of those is that I've been talking about this on the weekend some, and I wanted to bring it up now. I'm not like a financial genius. I'm not bad with money, but I'm not at the level of, really, who is? When you talk about spending $1.7 trillion on a bill or whatever it is, those are such magic fantasy numbers that I'm not sure even our best financial minds can really wrap their minds around. For instance, Elon Musk had to really stretch to buy Twitter for like $44 billion. Congress is looking to spend $44 billion on like guns for Ukraine at one time.
Yeah,
they've already done that many times.
What's wild is they've got $300 billion in frozen Russian assets.
Oh yeah, it's just why you deal with these numbers. And you go, I don't even know what we're talking about anymore. But when you talk about somebody's personal finances, which in the case of Donald Trump, being forced to pay roughly $400 million in New York, let's put aside the obvious that this is political persecution. I've been looking at that case quite a bit and trying to find some way in which it makes any sense legally. I can't find it. And again, I'm not an economist. I'm not a financial genius, but I do know real estate somewhat. I've bought some real estate. I'm a small fish in a big pond. Nobody knows anything that I'm doing. It's just for our own finances. We're just trying to do good investments and so on and so forth. But I've learned enough about real estate to kind of know how the language is used and how the ball game's played enough that I could be, a bat boy in the game and be like, well, at least I know who's at bat. You're right. Okay. So I'm just saying this to paint the picture that even if I'm not an expert, I kind of get how it goes because I've done it enough. This case, again, makes so little sense. And it's been reported that is it Letitia James or the judge? I don't remember who, one of the players involved in that New York real estate case said something like, well, Mar-a-Lago's worth about $10 million. Mar-a-Lago, by I think the most low-end estimates, is worth $500 million.
It took $18 million when they originally built it.
Exactly. And that was probably a number of years ago.
Yeah, you're talking because I think it was a post, post serial. I think it was a post serial heirist.
Oh my gosh, you're talking a number of years
Yeah,
ago.
so you turn of the century kind of stuff. I think they said it worked out to be about $120 million in today's money.
You add to the fact that the president lives there to sell that, and I've seen estimates that are higher than that, but at least $500 million somewhere. And again, these are just magic numbers at this point because my point in even bringing that up is if you have people involved in these cases that are making decisions on other people's finances, they clearly don't even know what they're talking about.
Right.
And so it's beyond that, though, because I've said before, if you were going to inflate your assets in the way that they're saying Trump did, first of all, who did you fraud? Because the answer is no one. You really cannot make a case in that case that anyone was frauded.
Right. What's interesting when you say the amount of inflation that they're saying Trump inflated those assets to get that loan, they're calling the bank loan assessors idiots. He's like, no, this is only worth about, if like he said, $10 or $12 million or whatever it was, and Trump was asking for hundreds of millions of dollars as collateral.
Yes.
And then the bank's like, yeah, we'll do it.
Yes, they're calling the assessors idiots. And by the way, those bank assessors are like they're big guys.
Yeah.
Because this isn't the random loan you're going to get at your local bank, although the same principles do apply. This is the loan appraisal people that deal with just whales. Like they just deal with massive spenders, massive
hundreds
properties
of millions of dollars
in New York City. I mean, you're talking about big, big money. So you're not putting your guy who just started working at JP Morgan there. Like you're putting your big appraisers on because they want to know a lot of things about the property and they want to know about the person who's borrowing the money to see if they're reliable to pay back that loan, in which they did, Trump and his team did every single time. They paid back their loans, and the banks wanted to continue to do business with these whales because the banks knew, well, I could go do 100 houses, or I could do one deal with Donald Trump and make the same amount.
Yeah.
Let's do the one deal with the big guy so we don't have to do all the work with the little guys. They wanted to work with Trump. Trump always paid back the loans. His appraisals were pretty much the same as the banks. And if they weren't, he wouldn't have gotten the loans. This is like basic stuff that it almost looks like the judge in this case and the prosecutor in New York look as if they've never, ever bought a house, because it's the same process for you and I to just buy a house, much smaller scale, but it's the same process.
Well, think about whenever you, like if you're listening now and you go to buy a house, the homeowner puts a value on that house and they said, my house is worth this much. And then you come back and you say, no, I think your house is worth this much. And you make an offer on the home that is usually less than what they're asking. I was listening to Kevin O'Leary. He said, everybody does this. Everybody, whenever they say, hey, he said, especially real estate investors, when they evaluate the value of their property, he says it's always high. They always think their property is bigger and more valuable than what it is. He says then the bank comes in and goes, I don't know that it's that much. It's this much, and we'll give you a loan for this much.
Yeah.
So it's a negotiation thing.
Oh, and by the way, most of the loans, they're not for 100% of the value.
No.
You also probably know that because you probably have 80% down in your house. These things are across the board the same. But I bring that up because my point is the people in charge of big decisions, legal consequences with these decisions, they don't know what they're doing, and if they do, they're evil. Like if these people know what they're doing, they're just lying on purpose to score political points to try to stop their political enemy. That's wrong. You can't do that's evil. You can't do that. But it's also that I think these people don't really know what they're talking about, like the comment about what Mar-a-Lago's worth. It's just ignorance. Listen to this one. Real estate investors who buy up single-family homes could get taxed under a new bill. This is, to me, chalks up to ignorance. U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin out of Wisconsin is trying to pass federal legislation that would tax real estate investors who buy up substantial numbers of single-family homes. The plan aimed at increasing the availability of affordable housing. Now, what she is talking about is a problem.
Yes.
More people want houses than can buy houses right now, partially because of inflation. Houses have gone up like crazy. But there's a lot of factors in there.
More people wanting houses than there are houses that can be bought
Is a supply problem.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll get there. But her solution to this, again, and this is politicians who have power, and I don't know if this law will actually get passed because it's a federal law. This isn't a state law. But what her goal is to impose a tax on investors who purchase and hold more than 15 single-family homes nationwide. So you're talking about trying to target places like BlackRock that are buying up tons and tons of these small, usually smaller properties, although not all of them, single-family residential properties that they're buying up. That is causing a problem with the supply side because you have less availability for people, especially entry-level people, to buy those smaller houses. So what is her solution? Well, let's tax people who have 15 or more properties. This is such a great example, and this is why I like talking about real estate, because I know this stuff a little bit more. This is such a great example of somebody who sees a problem and thinks government is the solution, but really has no idea what they're doing and is actually going to hurt the people she's trying to help. Let me explain how real quick before we get to a break and get to Zack Smith. If she were to pass this law, let's say Congress does and Biden does, but it's probably not going to happen. But let's say they do, and anybody who has 15 houses or more has to pay a tax. Well, here's what the businesses are going to do. They're going to spin off about 100 LLCs and put 15 houses in every single one of them so that they avoid the tax. So that's going to do two things. One, it's going to increase the cost of the business, who is going to pass that along to the renter or the buyer if they sell the house.
Yes.
So you're just increasing the prices even more by adding regulation. If they don't do that, if they don't take their 30 houses and put them into 2 separate LLCs, which costs them money to do, then they're going to pay a higher tax. Guess who's going to pay for that? Again, it's the renters who are going to pay higher
It
rent.
always gets passed on.
This stuff is so stupid and it's so easy to poke holes in that I don't think that the people trying to pass it have ever worked in the private sector, because they look so dumb when they do this that they're trying to solve real problems. I'll give them credit for that. But this isn't how you do it. How do you do it? You hit it on it already, Brad. You add as much inventory as you can. You encourage people to be building houses, building duplexes, if that's it, building apartments.
Not just building houses, but building affordable homes.
Well, right now, the problem is there's so much regulation across the board, whether it be on how you cut lumber or how you buy it or how you build it.
You build a house in Illinois, you have to have a port for charging an EV.
All of this crazy stuff, it makes it harder and harder for entry-level Gen Z right now, which probably people, to buy a house. And they're right. When you see these videos of people complaining, oh, I can't afford a house. My parents could in the 90s. Their parents could in the 70s. They're right. It's because of all the regulation and focusing on problems that don't fix the problem, focusing on solutions that don't fix the problems. Now, if you understand business, somebody like Donald Trump probably would, you'd understand that you need to encourage the private sector to just be flooding the inventory with building as much as possible. And you do that by reducing regulation, and it makes it better on everybody. But we've got to, we can agree on the problems. We've got to get people who know how to solve those problems into office if you're going to actually fix anything. Otherwise, you're just kind of papering over it. Zack Smith, legal fellow from Heritage, is coming in next to talk with us about this Supreme Court decision 9-0. If you didn't hear about it yet, they will allow Trump to be on the ballot in Colorado, and we presume that means everywhere else, but we'll talk to Zack Smith about that next.
You're listening to The Annie Fry Show on St. Louis's home for conservative talk. Find the podcast, on-demand audio, and more at 971talk.com/Annie.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's corporate cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/free. Ramp.com/free. ramp.com/free.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-652-5241 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-652-5241. That's 800-652-5241. What do you have to lose? Call 800-652-5241. Again, 800-652-5241.
Hey guys, Glover here from my friends at ThrottleNet. So I'm so very proud to have represented the guys at ThrottleNet for all of these years. They are the IT geniuses. George and Mike are the owners. Fantastic guys. They can do all of your IT. They can do a portion of your IT. They have the best Apple support team. Their response time is under 2 minutes. Think about that, under 2 minutes. Something goes sideways with your IT, and they are solving your problem. And they're solving your problem within 2 minutes. Now, let's talk about cybersecurity. Most companies in St. Louis don't have cyber liability insurance. You get hit, you're on the hook, you're probably out of business. With ThrottleNet, if we represent you, we protect you. The first $500,000 that someone hits you for, which isn't going to happen, but if it does, we pay it. $500,000. That's what you're covered for with ThrottleNet. Go to throttlenet.com/DGS for all the information.
Jules on Hampton in St. Louis Hills is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, and fine watches on site. Jules on Hampton is a premier jeweler with an exquisite selection of diamonds, semi-precious stone jewelry, and vintage watches. Their expert design team can restyle your jewelry to today's contemporary style. They also do jewelry and watch repair. Need extra cash? Jules on Hampton is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, and fine watches. Bring in your collectibles and clocks, sports memorabilia, and figurines too. Jules on Hampton, 4506 Hampton, just 3 blocks south of Chippewa. Call them at 314-752-5000. Jules on Hampton.
You're listening to the Annie Fry Show live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. Air Comfort Service is hiring licensed journeymen. Don't have a journeyman license? Air Comfort Service will help you get it. Get guaranteed hours year-round and more. Apply online at aircomfortservice.com.
For details and a list of all station contest rules, visit www.971talk.com/rules.
St. Louis is home for conservative talk.
The Mark Reardon Show.
Monday afternoon, a preview of Super Tuesday, as if it matters at all.
Weekdays from 3 to 6. The Mark Reardon Show on 97.1 FM Talk. This is the Annie Fry Show. Follow Annie on Twitter at Annie Fry Show.
Stay on Colorado's ballot in a historic 14th. Some great sound there. Good cut. Thanks, guys. This is Ryan Wiggins filling in for Annie Fry. She will be gone for one day. Be back tomorrow. We've been talking about having Zack Smith on the show all day. Looking forward to our conversation with him. He's here now. He's a legal fellow at Heritage. Zack, thanks for calling.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me on the show today, Ryan. I really appreciate it.
So this is a big day. I don't know how much the average American is going to pay attention to this ruling other than to know, I can still vote for Trump in Colorado. The news, of course, is the Supreme Court has ruled that Trump can stay on the Colorado ballot. But this is kind of a big deal, right?
No, it's absolutely a big deal. And I think it came out the right way, the way that many people suspected it would. The unanimous Supreme Court essentially saying that states did not have the authority under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment to disqualify a candidate for the presidency of the United States. And that makes sense not only from a legal perspective, but from a practical one as well. Otherwise, you would have chaos.
Zach, did it surprise you that it was a 9-0 decision?
No, it didn't surprise me. It was a 9-0 decision. I think many people suspected it would come out that way. I think the court viewed this as being very important to be unanimous or as close to it as possible. I was a little surprised at some of the strident language that the three liberal justices used in their concurring opinion. But look, I think the result in this case was very obvious that states cannot disqualify Donald Trump or anyone else running for federal office from their ballot.
Yeah, Zach, I was looking at that concurrent opinion of both the three liberal justices, Sonia Sotomayor, Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, and looking at what Amy Coney Barrett had to say. Can you explain what their opinions were saying that was different than the majority opinion?
Yeah, basically what they were saying is that the justices in the majority decided too much, that those justices went too far. They said basically all the court needed to decide was that Colorado and any other state couldn't kick Donald Trump off of the ballot. The majority opinion went a little bit further and said that the way the Constitution envisions someone being declared ineligible for engaging in insurrection is that Congress will pass a law and provide a mechanism for that to take place. Elena Kagan and the other justices who wrote that concurrence seem to indicate there may be some other mechanism where the federal government can make that determination. What that is or what that would look like, I don't really know. And at the end of the day, I think the concurrences were really much ado about nothing because, again, the result in this case was so clear from the get-go, at least to many who had watched it, working its way up through the lower courts.
Zack Smith, legal fellow at Heritage. Yeah, I've been reading this too, and I just can't quite understand, and it sounds like you're saying the same thing, which is good to know, what the three liberal justices were saying, because it sounds like they were saying, well, we agree that he should be on the Colorado ballot, but we really don't know why. That's kind of the way it was coming across to me.
Right. Well, that's exactly right. And so, if the court decided on some supposedly narrower ground, again, I don't really know what that would look like. There were a lot of different arguments raised in this case. For instance, is the president an officer of the United States? Is the presidency an office of the United States so that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment would apply? And a lot of the argument, if you listened to it or read any of the briefing, really got into a lot of historical minutia surrounding the different practices at the time the 14th Amendment was passed in the wake of the Civil War. There was a case called Griffin's case that was decided in the late 1860s. It was an opinion by Chief Justice Salmon Chase, where he was actually sitting as a lower federal court judge in kind of a unique procedural issue. A lot of dispute over whether that case should apply or not. And so all of this is kind of the background. But look, at the end of the day, both from a legal and a practical perspective, this decision makes sense. And, I'll say one other thing very quickly. The Supreme Court's decision in this case essentially prevented almost 14 million people from being unilaterally disenfranchised by the elected officials of their states, because that's essentially what would have happened if the decision of Colorado, Maine, and just recently Illinois had been allowed to stand.
Oh, man, we love Illinois. Illinois does a great job. Brad and I both live in Illinois, and so, man, we just think they're doing a bang-up job. Let me ask you this, Zach. This is a little bit of a hypothetical, but we were kind of kicking this idea around in the first segment when we were reporting on this decision. So with the majority opinion saying that Congress has to basically decide that somebody is guilty of insurrection to keep them off of a federal ballot, I'm correct at that far, right?
Right, correct. Yeah.
Okay. So if that is the precedent that's been set now by the Supreme Court, would it be hypothetically possible that in a future election, if you had a, let's say, fully Democrat Congress or fully Republican Congress, could they vote to keep a presidential candidate off of the ballot using this Supreme Court case?
Well, look, I'll put a little bit finer point on what you're saying is essentially what's important to realize is that the 14th Amendment, Section 3, it's not self-executing. Congress has to pass a law that allows the provisions of the 14th Amendment to be put into practice. And typically what that means is Congress establishes a law with certain legal procedural mechanisms in place. And so, for instance, in the wake of the Civil War, Congress passed a law where the U.S. attorney in a given district could bring in action in the local federal court to disqualify someone under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment if they believed that person had engaged in insurrection or rebellion. And with that, there was a defined procedure. There were protections, including due process protections, and things of that nature put in place as well. And so I think that's what the court's saying. The Congress doesn't necessarily have to vote case by case, person by person, though they could theoretically do that. But Congress would have to put in place at least some procedure that would allow for this type of determination to be made.
So, Zach, based on the ruling today from the Supreme Court, does that automatically mean that he is on the ballot in all 50 states? You mentioned Illinois and Maine, or does that have to be revisited by Maine and Illinois and they have to come to the right conclusion now?
Well, he should be on the ballot. You know, the Supreme Court kind of waited until the very last minute to issue this decision, considering, Colorado's primary is tomorrow, as well as the primary in many other states. But, one of the things I think that didn't get enough attention about this decision, which I thought was very interesting, was that the court said state officials could disqualify candidates from state office based on Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. There would have to be a mechanism provided in state law for that to happen. And so I'm curious to see whether you may see follow-up cases involving people who were, in some way involved in January 6th or some of the other, post-election litigation, whether you might see efforts in the future to bar those individuals from running for state office if they ever choose to do so.
Zach, Donald Trump came out and spoke about this at about 11:45 today. That's actually what I tried to play from some sound at the beginning of the segment, and it was just the wrong thing. But I was going to play some sound that he was talking about some of the other legal cases. I think we were all kind of expecting him to make a statement saying, hey, this is the right decision. Glad to see the Supreme Court go 9-0 here. That's great. But he talked a lot about his other cases, and one of the ones that he was a little bit somber about was the Jack Smith case. Can you kind of update us on what happened last week with the Supreme Court choosing to take that case up, what that means for that case?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I didn't get to see Donald Trump's press conference. But look, the fact that the Supreme Court is willing to take this case, I think it's going to end up being a very important decision. Now, what they're going to do with it, I don't know. They've agreed to hear it on a very expedited basis, almost lightning speed by Supreme Court terms. And so I think we can expect a decision before the end of June. Now, what that means in terms of the timing for any potential trial, should Jack Smith's case against Donald Trump survive, I don't know. Certainly, Jack Smith wants to try to bring these cases to trial before the election. Donald Trump obviously wants them to take place after the election. But I would think regardless, it'll be very difficult to get these cases to trial and get a verdict reached before November. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Zach, last question for you, and this is really bringing it right down to the foundations here. What is Jack Smith trying to do? What is Jack Smith trying to accomplish that the Supreme Court may have delayed here? What's his goal?
Well, certainly, again, he wants to get these cases to trial and have a verdict reached before the November election. That's one of the reasons you saw a lot of the unique procedural wrangling he did. He actually tried to skip over the Court of Appeals in this case, asked the Supreme Court just to take it originally. They said, no, we're not going to do that. So it went back down to the Court of Appeals. And only after the Court of Appeals reached its decision did the Supreme Court agree to once again hear this case. But certainly Jack Smith, he wants to prosecute Donald Trump, and he wants to do it as quickly as possible, likely in an effort to impact the upcoming election, which is very unfortunate, I think.
Zack Smith, legal fellow at Heritage Foundation and co-host of SCOTUS 101. So thank you so much for your time today and your expertise.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me on.
This is the Annie Fry Show. If you are just tuning in right now and you're going, hey, that doesn't sound like Annie, is not Annie. She is on vacation for the weekend. She'll be back tomorrow. So this was all a plan. No big deal. We're just filling in today. Me and Brad and Leah are kind of making our way through this. Again, you use the word so often that it becomes meaningless, but another historic day.
Unprecedented.
Unprecedented day where the Supreme Court weighed in on a presidential candidate being kept off the ballot in certain states. And of course, if you just heard that interview, you'd know that they were not successful in that. The Supreme Court stepped in and said, no, you do have to have this guy on the ballot. Here's how you would take him off if you potentially wanted to do that. They kind of gave a roadmap for that. So thank you to Zack Smith for checking in with the show today. I'm Ryan Wiggins, filling in for Annie Fry. Stick around. We'll be right back.
The Annie Fry Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
You've listened to 97.1 FM Talk. You've heard of Doug Voss of Voss Financial and Safe Money Radio, as he has been a staple as the financial expert on the station for many years. You can hear him on Safe Money Radio several times a weekend right here on 97.1 FM Talk. And you can talk to Doug Voss directly. Here's his number. Call Doug at 844-676-SAFE. That is 844-676-7233. Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through D.H. Hill Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
You wouldn't trust a butcher to babysit your pet pig. You wouldn't trust a lumberjack to repair your antiques. Or a professional wrestler to be your massage therapist. So why would you trust anyone but AMCO to fix your car? For over 50 years, we've been the trusted experts in transmission repair.
AMCO offers easy payment plan options for most any credit situation, so you can fix it fast and pay it off slow at AMCO.
AA MCO.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle, unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. With ZipRecruiter, one click sends your job to hundreds of top job sites. But more than that, ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies the candidates with the skills you need, sends you a list of great matches to review, then actively invites them to apply for your job. And the results speak for themselves. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's right, the first day. Now you can focus on your business and let ZipRecruiter do the work finding the best people for you. See for yourself. Experience the ease, efficiency, and power of ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
To have a roof over your head, a nice roof over your head, is very important.
That's Rick talking about his experience with Rhino Shield ceramic coating.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago, and they're very cooperative on getting us the right paint. They're in and out and done in no time. Once it was finished, looked great. We were very happy with it.
The main reason Rick called Rhino Shield is because it's backed by a 25-year transferable warranty.
We've watched a lot of people get their house painted 3 or 4 times, and we haven't had to do any of it. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to have to paint it every 5-7 years.
Take a tip from Rick and put down the paintbrush and call Rhino Shield for your free evaluation. 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO. Or visit 877-25rhino.com.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago. Financially makes sense, especially if it's going to last like this did. Still looks great.
Call now. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
If you need someone you can trust for your eye care, go see the doctors at Ophthalmology Associates. Kim St. Ange here. Doctors Birdie, Malhotra, Brusati, Royer, and Barry are experts in the diagnosis and treatment of diseases of the eye. 314-966-5000 or youridoc.com.
Just imagine being walked all over for 36 years. Who would do that? The great customers of Reinhold Flooring, that's who. For over 3.5 decades, Reinhold Flooring has been the mecca for carpet, hardwood, vinyl, laminate, and area rugs. Reinhold Flooring is customer-driven with a focus on top-quality products and installations from the best team in the business. So come on in and walk all over your next flooring at Reinhold Flooring. Visit them at 5429 Telegraph Road in St. Louis or online at reinholdflooring.com.
Today's Annie Fry, oh my gosh, Annie Fry YouTube live chat poll.
Cut that. Leah,
No, don't
that.
cut it, Leah. Leah, leave it alone. Today's YouTube live chat poll, do the efforts to keep Trump off the ballot help him in the November election? Yes or no? We want to hear what you have to say about it, and you can tell us by jumping on the Annie Fry YouTube page, finding the live stream, which should be right there at the top, and jumping in the chat and telling us in the chat and also voting on the poll that will be in that chat as well. Tell us, yes or no? Does it help him? The time is 1:46. This time check is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning.
It's time for a $98 furnace tune-up.
Conservative solutions, objective conclusions. For news and opinion, this is St. Louis's home for conservative talk. 97.1 FM Talk. This is the Annie Fry Show. Follow Annie on Twitter at Annie Fry Show.
You're listening to the Annie Fray Show. This is Ryan Wiggins filling in. Doing a great job, Brad. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I've had about enough of your nonsense for the day.
I got a mystery here. I was looking out the window, and I just keep going, man, it's so nice. Although it's not that sunny.
No.
You know, it could be nicer in that sense. It could look a little bit nicer. But my phone right now says it's 76 degrees, which is knocking on the door of being too warm to wear long sleeves. But I see a lot of people wearing long sleeves. I also see, because it's so windy, I guess, a whole bunch of balloons caught in the trees in the park near here. And they're different colors. They're purple and they're gold. And so I didn't know if there was some sort of event that I missed this weekend.
I would imagine there was.
I would think.
And the colors of that event were purple and gold, but I don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is either. So let us know in the chat if you happen to know what we missed this weekend that would have lent itself to purple, various shades of purple too, because they're not all just one. Various shades of purple balloons and gold balloons that are just kind of caught in trees and poles and stuff around here. I do want to bring up another one here. I'm going to walk you through this story because it's got a twist. And I love twists.
Oh, here we go. It's like an M. Night Shyamalan story.
I love M. Night Shyamalan stories because of the twists. In fact, in the middle of his career when he did Lady in the Water, that was the worst part of his career because he decided, you know what, everybody knows me for doing twists. I'm going to do a couple movies here that the twist is
there is no
twist. And it was like, boo. His recent stuff's been really good, though. Old was really good. I don't know if you saw that one.
It yet.
It's the one where they're on a beach.
Oh, I did see that one.
And they're trapped on a beach and they're aging rapidly.
Yes, I did see that one.
I can't say there's like an amazing twist, but it's got a good.
Kind of is at the end.
It's a payoff ending.
Yeah.
That you go, oh yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah, and there was one. It's the name eludes me, but it was something like Cabin in the Woods, and it was with Dave Bautista, the huge dude from Guardians. He is such an interesting character in that movie. It's basically two gay guys who are in a cabin, and I think they've got a daughter. I can't remember all the details.
Visitor or something like that.
But these people show up at the cabin, and they just start telling them, listen. And they're real calm. Listen, the end of the world's about to happen, and this cabin is basically the only place that's going to survive. And you're like, what? Unless you allow us to kill one of you, which we will not do unless you say it's okay. It's something like real close to that. And so like throughout the movie, everything they're saying, the evidence starts to show up that maybe they're telling the truth. And you're in the
Knock
situation.
at the cabin.
Knock at the cabin. There you go.
Leah for the win.
It's a really, really, just like all of his movies, they just keep stringing you along where you're going, what the heck is happening? And what do you do in this situation? You know, really good stuff. So I say that to say this story, not quite as good of a twist.
Oh, man.
But still a really good one.
Okay.
A reporter from the Washington Post has garnered criticism online after she discussed recent shoplifting trends, arguing that the problem of shoplifting has become moral panic in the nation's cities. The article was written by Post-Culture reporter Mara Judkis, who titled it The Zombie CVS, a Late Capitalism Horror Story. You don't even know where this is going yet, right?
No.
They're just setting you up, okay? So in the article, this is in the Washington Post, well-read publication, Judkis discusses a Washington, D.C. CVS that had been looted by shoplifters so much, and you've seen videos of this, it had been looted and looted and looted to the point that you're like, why is this store even staying open? But it had been looted so much that it was finally closed, and the reporter went on to discuss other stores, noting that merchandise in basically every store was being kept behind plexiglass. Now, I've seen stuff behind plexiglass in my local Walgreens, but it's just the razors.
Right.
And maybe once in a while, actually, I think in Walmart now near me, they do keep some of the baby formula behind a lock.
Okay.
But I can't tell you for sure that that's all of it or even every store. But there is more than there used to be behind lock and key. You know, it used to just be the cigarettes behind the counter. They kept them behind the counter for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, they're easy to swipe.
It's like, hey, you didn't have that rolled up in your sleeve before now.
But they can't keep everything behind the counter. Well, I guess you could maybe move your store toward having a gigantic counter right at the door. you just walk up and order.
Well, some of those convenience stores are like that.
They are like that.
Everything's behind bulletproof glass, and you say, I want this, and they go and get it and bring it for you.
But they haven't changed it to completely alter the layout of the stores yet. But they are having more and more stuff, especially in these big cities, San Francisco, apparently D.C. as well, putting almost everything in the store behind plexiglass, which at that point you go, well, why? You're basically asking your clerks to be personal shoppers. Like, walk around with me and help me pick out the stuff to put in my basket because there's no other way to do it. So here's where the twist happens. She says, other shelves stretching entire aisles are totally empty because they can't keep stuff on them because they just get robbed. Here's the twist. But at that point in the article, Judkis says that these crimes are being used by the conservative base to stoke fear about crime waves that aren't happening. So she reports.
I am seeing a lot of people like, hey, crime's actually down.
I'm seeing the same thing. People doing
Chris Murphy's one.
Gavin Newsom beat a statistic hard enough until it says what you want it to say version. So she goes about this whole thing. And then she makes a twist there where she goes, listen, though, the conservative base is stoking fear about a crime wave that isn't happening. Judkis calls the situation a horror story of late capitalism. Quote, the empty CVS had somehow become a stand-in for all that is wrong with American cities and liberals and liberal democracy in 2024, she wrote. She later added that their, as in conservatives, ancestral guilt about colonization was truly behind the moral panic. Quote, America is a sticky-fingered nation built on stolen land, and its current moral panic is about shoplifting. It's not just a worry in Columbia Heights. All over the country, from sea to shining CVS, there are concerns about petty theft. The argument that Judkis makes is that crime is getting worse in some places, but better in others, and people don't know how, or people don't know because it's either underreported or over-exaggerated. So, again...
So where's crime getting better?
Again, like that great question, where's crime getting better, and can you point me to there?
Yeah, and when you do, point me to who's in charge.
Thank you. Last paragraph here, the article goes on to express several different aspects that go into shoplifting, including joblessness, inflation, and a slow recovery from the pandemic. And she maintains the issue is being inflated by a culture war.
But I thought Bidenomics is working.
Well, Brad, don't think too hard. Because this is a Washington Post culture article from this Judkis person. I just love it because, like you said, I'm seeing a lot of that too. There's a backlash against crime reporting. That's not real.
This article is like, the crime wave isn't happening, but here's why it's justified.
But that's not even it. They paint a crime wave happening.
Right.
And here's
say
all
it's
these
not.
stores are closing. You can't buy things that aren't behind glass anymore. But that's not real.
It's your ancestral guilt.
And if it is, it's just overhyped conservatives yelling about it because it's in blue cities. There you go. I mean, that is the best example of American media right now that I could possibly find. I have such a hard time.
It's amazing to watch these people tie themselves in knots to maintain the story that they want to maintain.
It really is. I mean, we've already talked about the border in this show, but that whole thing, and we've said this for years, so it's nothing new, but the pain and agony that liberals were in during Donald Trump's term about how bad the border was, and then they just leave. Like it's so much worse now by any metric that you can come up with. And they're like, let's talk about something else though.
What if we just called them newcomers?
Yeah, we gotta change. Well, we're just getting bad press. They don't have any control over the press. It's magic. Hey, it's an M. Night Shyamalan movie waiting to happen. America 2024. Thanks for being here right now on the Annie Fry Show. It's almost 2 o'clock. We got one more hour to go. I'm going to play some great Jimmy Fallon stuff that I found, and we're going to play some more of the Supreme Court game at 2:25. Stick around.
Spring is in the air, and that means it's time for some spring cleaning, and I want you to do that with the help of my friends from Zero Res. And you could save big in March when you beat the spring cleaning rush with these limited time offers from my cleaning heroes at Zero Res. You're not the only one who's sick and tired of winter. Your carpets are too. So think about the dust, the dander, living and breeding in your carpet, your upholstery, your air ducts, and more with nowhere to go. So let's get that gunk out of your home, and you're going to call Zero Res. You're going to ask for an awesome deal right now and mention my name or 97.1 FM Talk. Here's the deal for the month of March. 3 rooms, Zero Resified from St. Louis's #1 carpet cleaner, starting at $119. Also, take $50 off your air duct cleaning and 20% off all upholstery. You get your carpets professionally cleaned, you get great customer service with the 30-day gotta love it guarantee, and you get a cleaner home. Call Zero Res, 314-474-2020, online, ZeroResSTL.com, and make sure you mention the station special. You spell it backwards or forwards, it spells the same. Call Zero Res today.
My whole identity had been wrapped up in being a soldier. To have that so violently ripped from me when I was wounded, I was lost for a very long time. When Wounded Warrior Project came into my life, being around the other warriors, people that had similar experiences that I did, it was a game changer for me. Having King join the group, that was the beginning of a really good friendship. It's a good time.
I first heard about Wounded Warrior Project through CQ. And at first I was kind of like, I don't know if I qualify. But having been a part of it, it's kind of taught me that it's not just the wounds that you can see, but it's those that you can't.
When you do something like a peer support group with Wounded Warrior Project and come together from different walks of life, man, the growth is incredible. If not for Wounded Warrior Project, I really don't think that I'd be here today.
See how we help warriors combat stigma at woundedwarriorproject.org/combat stigma.
Jules on Hampton in St. Louis Hills is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, and fine watches on site. Jules on Hampton is a premier jeweler with an exquisite selection of diamonds, semi-precious stone jewelry, and vintage watches. Their expert design team can restyle your jewelry to today's contemporary style. They also do jewelry and watch repair. Need extra cash? Jules on Hampton is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, and fine watches. Bring in your collectibles and clocks, sports memorabilia, and figurines too. Jules on Hampton, 4506 Hampton, just 3 blocks south of Chippewa. Call them at 314-752-5000. Jules on Hampton.
KFTK FM Florissant. From the Under Law Injury Lawyers, GetJim.com studio, 97.1 FM Talk. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
They can't kick him off the ballot. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. That bottom line from the U.S. Supreme Court unanimously ruling that a state can't enforce the Constitution's insurrection clause, which the Colorado Supreme Court said could be used to remove former President Trump from the primary ballot. Today's ruling overturns that.
Former President Trump says the court's ruling should unify the country.
As a politician, they can go after me with votes, but they're not going to go after me with that kind of lawsuit that takes somebody out of a race who's leading in this case.
The former president also says the Supreme Court should rule presidents have criminal immunity for actions taken in office. That challenge, stemming from the special counsel's election interference case, will be considered by the justices next month.
Fox's Jared Halpern. A UN team just out with a report on sexual violence during the October 7th attacks on Israel. They find reasonable grounds to believe Hamas committed rape, sexualized torture, and other cruel and inhumane treatment of women, that such violence may be ongoing, and that some hostages have been subjected to the same forms of sexual violence. This as the U.S. supports an apparent UN investigation into the deadly confrontation involving Israeli soldiers near an aid convoy in Gaza last week. The White House also calling for more aid corridors to be opened after airdropping food over the weekend.
State Department spokesman Matt Miller faced skeptical reporters and was asked why the U.S. is resorting to battlefield humanitarian airdrops when the area they are servicing is controlled by an ally, Israel. Few think that the paltry airdrop of humanitarian aid done in conjunction with Jordan this weekend will do anything to stave off massive hunger and starvation in Gaza.
Fox's Jennifer Griffin at the Pentagon, the State Department spokesman calling the humanitarian situation in Gaza simply intolerable. An hour to the close on Wall Street, stocks are mixed. The Dow's down 23 points. America's listening to Fox News.
I'm Chris Riccobono, founder of Untuck It. When I started the brand, I wanted to make the perfect fitting untucked shirt. And over the years, we changed the way guys think about how they dress. The secret was our obsession over fabric quality, listening to what our customers wanted and making everything fit perfectly. Our fit team has mastered pants, polos, sports coats, and more. So we've got you covered from head to toe. Try what millions of guys already know and love. Shop today at untuckit.com or our 80-plus stores worldwide.
Oh, this cold.
Honey?
Honey?
Honey, you need DayQuil Severe Honey.
DayQuil Severe Honey gives you powerful cold and flu symptom relief with a honeylicious taste, because life doesn't stop for a cold.
Okay, I'm ready to go.
Now I'm getting a cold.
Honey.
Try DayQuil Severe Honey for powerful cold and flu relief. DayQuil Severe with honey flavor. The daytime coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever, honeylicious, power through your day medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation. Weather.
Partly to mostly sunny skies, windy and warm again this afternoon. 78 for the high, close to a record tonight. Windy and mild, but let's look for scattered showers and thunderstorms. A couple could be on the strong side and starting to take hold fairly early in the evening. 55 for the low. On Tuesday, a couple of showers and thunder showers in the morning. Otherwise, mostly cloudy, slightly cooler, 63. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
What's your favorite four-letter word? Chances are you've said it more than a few times dealing with this crazy world we live in. But at Compass Retirement Solutions, our four-letter word of choice is hope. Hope for a better tomorrow. And hope that your retirement plans don't take a back seat. You've watched inflation soar, and maybe your retirement future feels a little uncertain right now. But all hope is not lost. Find out exactly how much risk you're still taking with your investments. Find out how you may be able to save big on taxes. And find out how having a written retirement plan just might give you the hope you've been looking for. Call today to set up a meeting. 314-373-1598. That's 314-373-1598. Compass Retirement Solutions. 314-373-1598. Firm offers insurance services but does not provide tax advice. Investments and services offered through Compass Retirement Group, a registered investment advisory firm in Missouri and Illinois. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Let's talk garage doors. Your garage door. Is it too loud? Or letting cold or hot air in around the frame? Overhead Door Company of St. Louis will make it all better. In March only, they will perform their full 26-task garage door tune-up for just $79 and just in March. That's just $79 for up to 3 garage doors and openers. You need this done once a year, so why not now? And for just $79. Schedule now at overheaddoorsstlouis.com.
Okay, so you filed your taxes this year, but you know you have past IRS issues. And now the IRS letters are coming. Hi, this is Lance Story with the Lance Story Law Firm. Don't ignore those IRS letters. They're important and give you rights and deadlines to defend yourself. Waiting could cause you to lose those rights. Call the Lance Story Law Firm now and let us help you get ahead of the IRS and defend your rights while you still have time. The Lance Story Law Firm is located here in St. Louis, so take the first step and hire a tax resolution attorney. We've made it super easy to schedule your free consultation in person, or you can do a phone call and save travel time. Remember, IRS problems are legal problems. So before you send money to some out-of-town, high-pressure salesperson, give us a call at the Lance Story Law Firm. Call today at 314-260-6120. That's 314-260-6120. Or go visit LanceDruryLaw.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.
Do you have multiple years of unfiled taxes or owe more than $8,000? The attorneys at Allies Tax Relief are your ally and will stop the IRS from garnishing your wages or them levying your bank account. Call 800-230-5174.
Not just right and left, right and wrong. We're discussing it every day on St. Louis's home for conservative talk. The Annie Fry Show YouTube live chat poll of the day is sponsored by Ruler Foods. Low prices, no coupons. Ruler Foods.
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
Thank God someone here knows what they're talking about.
That's us. That's right. Gotta love this American ride.
All right, you need to take the time and get the full picture.
Don't get me wrong, I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom. It is Anchor Man, not Anchor Lady.
What do you want from me? I'm not America's sweetheart.
Goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
I'm not America's sweetheart.
This is the Annie Fry Show.
Hello, this is the Annie Fry Show. Welcome to your Monday. Hopefully you are enjoying the outside temperature anyway. It's a little gloomy looking, but it's a nice day. This is Ryan Wiggins filling in for Annie just for today. She'll be back for the rest of the week. We'll have a normal show the rest of the week. One of the things that I have really enjoyed about being on this show in the last couple of years, especially I think as this is ramped up, is the fact that we have probably originally through Tyrus, developed some really good relationships with some really funny people.
Oh, yeah, like Joe DeVito and Jamie Lissow. Those guys are great.
Yeah, and, you know, it's to the point now where it seems like you can kind of reach out to them whenever and just say, hey, you want to come by? You want to give us a call? And they'll do it as long as they can.
Yeah.
And so that's been really cool, just meeting those guys. And I think it kind of coincides with the rise of the Gutfeld show as a late night phenomenon, in a sense, because now all of those guys are much more on display and you know them much more than you did before. We talk about comedy quite a bit, maybe because of that. Maybe it's just something that we're all interested in. I know Annie really enjoys stand-up comedy a lot. I know you do too, Brad. I'm not as big into stand-up, but I do enjoy the craft of comedy and seeing what people are doing and why. And we loathe the fact that late night TV has become what it is. So I figure in the midst of all that, let's celebrate a win when we found one. Now, this comes from a Wiggins America segment that I did last week where I was looking at some late night stuff that Jimmy Fallon was doing. Well, I found his full monologue from that day. I think it was just Thursday, so not like real long ago, where it was the big news of the day was Mitch McConnell had just announced his retirement, I think maybe the day before. That was Wednesday. And Joe Biden that morning was getting a physical. And it was a quote-unquote unannounced visit to the doctor, but it ended up just being a normal physical. Well, that being the news of the day, you know, that should lead the stories. On Jimmy Fallon, it actually did. And it was shocked because normally they lead with something that's pretty negative about either Republicans or Trump, and those things coincide often. But I want to walk through this monologue with Jimmy Fallon, and it's almost like every clip I'll play, you'll be a little bit more surprised at what was on late night network television as recently as the end of last week. Here's the first set of jokes from Jimmy Fallon.
That's right. This morning, Biden went to Walter Reed Medical Center for his yearly physical. The good news is Biden is doing great. However, the doctor who examined him hasn't blinked in 7 hours. Yeah, the exam was important, although bringing Biden in for a physical is kind of like bringing your iPhone 3 to the Genius Bar. It's like, I guess we can look at it. There's not much we can do with this thing.
All right, that's the first one. I figure after one or two, he'd probably move on. Here's the second one.
Things got off to a bit of a rough start when Biden took off his pants and the nurse said, "Sir, this is the waiting room." I mean, wait till you get inside. Once Biden made it in, the doctor was like, "Who gave him anesthesia?" The nurse said, "No, that's just how he is."
I mean, all right.
But the president is actually in fantastic shape. Apparently, he wanders 10,000 steps a day, which is nice to hear.
All right, yeah. So that's the one that I played last week. I'm like, that's a pretty solid joke.
Yes.
And it's just good to hear mainstream TV just doing jokes. Just doing some jokes on stuff that we all realize.
Are you surprised that Jimmy Fallon is kind of one of the first ones of those late night hosts to come out to do it?
I guess it doesn't surprise me that he would be the one, but it still surprises me that anyone is doing it.
I feel like Jimmy Fallon just wants to make jokes and make people laugh.
Yeah.
And people are like, no, you can't do that right now. Because remember, he had Trump on and they did some jokes and stuff. This was back in 2016 or something like that. And they're like, stop humanizing Donald Trump.
Yeah, exactly. He took so much blowback for doing jokes with the lead presidential candidate at the time, or one of the two lead presidential candidates at the time. That's typical stuff.
Yes.
We shouldn't be there.
We should be okay with laughing at both sides.
Let's be okay with it. Jimmy Fallon goes on. He kept going on Biden's health because that was the day that he'd visited the doctor.
It wasn't all great news for Biden. Unfortunately, they gave him a colonoscopy and found several more classified documents. That's unfortunate. That's right. Biden had his physical, and while I'm sure his doctors were very thorough, I wanted to ask some follow-up questions myself. So if you don't mind, we're going to talk to him right now.
Okay, so he's setting up a bit. So I thought, I played last week one joke that I thought, they actually said something, so let's highlight it. And I look up the monologue, and I'm like, dude, the dude's not stopping.
Yeah.
I mean, keep going. And so that's the beginning. So he sets up this bit where he's going to talk to Joe Biden about like a number. It's like he's interviewing him and they're pulling different clips of Biden in different places answering the questions.
I love that stuff.
It's good stuff. So I'll play the beginning. Here's the first one.
Let's do a quick vision test, okay? Can you read these letters top to bottom?
I can't quite see what I can't.
You know what? Forget it. It's fine. Don't worry about that. Real quick, what is your typical resting heart rate?
2.
Okay. That's pretty low.
That one might be my favorite in the whole thing. 2. I mean, the amount of, and that's the thing, we talk about Gutfeld all the time as having like 10 people on the whole staff.
Yeah.
And most of them are right there in the room that you're watching them.
And they're doing a great job.
The staffs for these shows are huge.
Yes.
Joe DeVito mentioned that, but it's true. The staffs for the late night show or Tonight Show, and all of them are so much bigger than Gutfeld. And so you can tell that they have time to do things like this. This takes time. As a producer, you know this.
Yes.
I do too. You have to develop, you have to go through clips and clips and clips and clips. And then you got to write around it. And then for TV especially, you got to have the clip that you can play and it has to look okay. So there's a lot that goes into this stuff. And so you think, well, there's a lot of money in these shows, so they're able to do it. Well, that's getting less and less because they're just not as popular as they used to be. But I got to commend them because they keep going. So that was a bit, but they don't stop. This is like a full 5-minute monologue that's just on how old Joe Biden is, which is low-hanging fruit. Like, why aren't more people doing this? These are easy jokes, but when nobody's doing it, it actually makes it stand out more. Here you
go. Moving on, what did the doctor say when he finished your colonoscopy?
That tunnel is 150 years old.
All right, well, that's interesting. I don't know if that's... Well, now, how many hours of sleep are you getting a night?
8 hours.
Okay, that's good. And how many hours of sleep are you getting during the day?
8 hours.
Okay, now...
I mean, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And it's not just because it's Biden. These are just like decent jokes about a guy who clearly doesn't have his fastball anymore, you know? 8 hours during the day, 8 hours a night. I thought that was pretty funny. And they found 2 different clips using different inflections of him saying 8 hours. 8 hours. And they're different places, too. You can't see it, but they're in different places. So the bit concludes with this last segment still going on Joe Biden.
What have you been wearing to bed to avoid those frequent trips to the bathroom?
Depends.
Now, sometimes a doctor will say someone's as strong as an ox. What did yours compare you to?
A 5'2" little Irish lady.
Okay, that's... Finally, Mr. President, we're going to do a stress test, okay? Can you start running some stairs?
Hey, you know where this goes.
You know what? Hey, never mind. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Sorry to bother you, sir.
So that's like the full first part of the monologue where I watched the rest of the whole thing too, and I do have one more joke that I'll play because he does switch sides here in a second, but that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the point, is that you don't have to just do jokes about one party. If you do Trump jokes, make them funny.
Yeah.
The Shane Gillis stuff from last weekend.
It's good stuff.
It was good stuff because it was funny. And there is an attitude in there that does need to be that says, I don't hate you. I'm not trying to destroy you. If that's there, it's harder to make those jokes.
It goes from goofing to bullying.
Yeah. Yeah. It goes from fun to exerting power.
Yeah.
Because that's what they're doing. They have a lot of power in kind of shaping narratives about these politicians. So he switches there. That's the whole first part of his monologue. And I'm kind of dwelling on this one night, but I was just like, gosh, I found it. Might as well use it. He switches here and goes into Mitch McConnell for a second, but it's the same theme that he's just old, okay?
Yeah, after nearly 2 decades as the Republican leader of the Senate, McConnell is stepping down. That can only mean one thing. He's running for president.
Yep. And he goes on, and he does one more where he says something about how it's time for the next generation to step in, but the next generation is 74, which is actually kind of true. So I just wanted to highlight that because that stuff is out there. And when they're going in on, I guess I'm a little disappointed that when I found this, I was so surprised. This shouldn't be surprising. This should be pretty normal stuff. And it used to be normal. And it's sad that we've gotten to a place where, oh my gosh, one of the late night hosts is making fun of a Democrat. That's news.
It's sad. And it didn't take long.
No, it really didn't.
I mean, it was Trump's presidency and Trump's candidacy the first time around. That's when everything changed. And now you're just like, oh.
Yeah, they sacrificed everything on the altar of Trump derangement syndrome. I mean, people on the left really hate when people mention TDS. I get that because that doesn't mean that everybody on the left has Trump derangement syndrome. You can not like him and not be deranged about it. But there are people in positions of power that do have Trump derangement syndrome, like a random judge in Illinois that decides, I'm just going to keep the guy off of the ballot.
A traffic judge in Illinois.
A traffic judge in Illinois. Do you know that I read this weekend that party officials in Illinois, obviously Democrats, had already decided that they weren't going to do that, that they were not going to keep Trump off the ballot. They're going to wait for the Supreme Court.
Yes,
but some
yes,
rando progressive judge clearly was like so frothing over Donald Trump that she went against her own party's better senses and did it anyway. And now looks like a fool because her ruling just got overturned by the Supreme Court. I mean, that stuff actually is Trump derangement syndrome. There's no strategy in it. It's just wild anarchy. I hate this guy. I'm going to react. And honestly, that's what you're seeing a little bit in the White House. And that's the result of a lot of bad policies is I don't really know what's right. I'm just going to do the opposite of whatever he did.
Yeah. But what you're talking about here, and this brings us back to that first segment that we did in the show today, we're returning to normalcy. You're seeing the Supreme Court go, okay, guys, chill out. This is wild. This is crazy. This is a terrible idea. Then you're also seeing Jimmy Fallon kind of going back to making fun of both sides, which is getting back to normalcy. So, I mean, I don't know, for me, this gives me hope.
I sure hope so. A return to normalcy would be great. And we're just talking about things that we in this country have for a long, long time thought were just basic facts. You know, everybody makes jokes about politicians, but they do it, if not equally, they at least do it to both sides a little bit. And we've gotten past that. So with that said, we are at the end of this segment. And we're going to take a pause here because coming up in the next segment, we talked to Zack Smith last hour. We've talked plenty about the 9-0 decision to keep Trump on the ballot. And by the way, that's today's YouTube live chat poll. Do the efforts to keep Trump off the ballot help him or hurt him in the November election? Do you think that they do? Yes or no? We'll give you the results of that at the end of the show. But coming up next, Pacific Legal is an organization that I love. They actually argue quite a few cases before the Supreme Court, so they kind of know the ins and outs of how things work. Some of these cases they might even be involved with. But it's all the other stuff that's been happening in this session that maybe you haven't heard about, or you've heard just enough to be interested to know more about it. The social media case, free speech, that was one that was making a lot of news. We'll talk to them about all of this stuff, kind of go round robin on all of it next here on the Annie Fry Show.
That's what
This is the Annie Fry Show. Follow Annie on Twitter @AnnieFryShow.
The Retirement Advisory Group, Thomas Helbig, Bob Kershaw, Tammy Kershaw, these are wonderful people, and they are there to help guide you out of your working time in your life into your retirement time in life. You do need to be aware of changes and shifts that you need to make so that the retirement that you've been dreaming about is going to be there, and you're going to be able to fulfill a lot of those hopes and dreams that you've had. The travel, the time spent with family, maybe buying a piece of property and developing an extra vacation home, that type of a thing. You reach out to Thomas Helbig and the Retirement Advisory Group, and they're going to guide you in how to make sure that you are comfortable and secure in your retirement years. 314-993-9494. Let the Retirement Advisory Group build your personalized, structured income plan. 314-993-9494. One more time, 314-993-9494. No cost, no obligation. Sit down and have a free discussion with the Retirement Advisory Group. RetirementKey.com.
There's breaking news all day long from around the world, and sometimes all that noise makes it hard to hear about what's happening right here at home. With the free Odyssey app, getting your local news plus breaking news is easy. And even when you're not near a radio, stay connected with what's going on right here by listening live and push alerts. Just download the free Odyssey app and search and follow your local news station, and you're good to go. The local breaking news to get you through your day at your fingertips on the free Odyssey app. That's AUDACY.
Guys, you know summer is just around the corner. Get yourself in shape now. Let my friends at Victory Men's Health help you. Mark Cox here. You know Victory is offering semaglutide, approved by the FDA for overweight adults. It's a game changer. On average, people are losing up to 15% of their body weight. Be sure and visit my friends at Victory Men's Health in Wing Haven, their newest location in Sunset Hills. They're also in Town and Country and in O'Fallon, Illinois. Go online today. Tell them you heard Mark Cox talking about it. VictoryMen'sHealth.com.
Paid for by Coalition Life. Stop. Wait. Think twice about signing that petition. That innocent petition is not a replacement for Roe versus Wade. We're talking late term and partial birth, long after the baby can feel pain. But that's not all. Signing that petition obliterates parental rights. Worse, it strips away malpractice protections for prenatal care, childbirth, miscarriage care, and all other reproductive health care. So if you or a loved one is hurt while accessing reproductive care, you forfeit your rights to sue. So think twice about signing that petition and instead join us on Saturday, March 23rd, just outside Union Station for March on the Arch, hosted by Coalition Life. March 23rd is a day to stand up for the precious babies and their brave mothers in a powerful morning filled with prayer, love, and inspiration. Register today at stlmarch.com, stlmarch.com, because every life deserves a chance.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-652-5241 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-652-5241. That's 800-652-5241. What do you have to lose? Call 800-652-5241. Again, 800-652-5241.
You're listening to the Annie Fry Show live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. Make your home comfortable year-round with routine HVAC maintenance from Air Comfort Service. Maintenance plans start at $15 per month and get 1 month free when you pay monthly. For details, visit aircomfortservice.com.
This is your home for Democracy 2024. And St. Louis's home for conservative talk can stream on your phone through the Odyssey app. Democracy 2024. Tell your smart speaker to play it. 97.1 FM Talk. This is the Annie Fry Show. Follow Annie on Twitter at Annie Fry Show.
You better think about what you're trying to do to me. Hey, let your mind go, let yourself be free. Let's go back, let's go way on, way back when. I didn't even know you couldn't have been too much more than 10.
Anytime there's a lot going on at the Supreme Court level, I like to talk to Pacific Legal because, Mark, you guys are right there. I mean, arguing cases, you know what's going on. So there's a lot been going on, right?
Great to join you. Yes, Ryan. There's been a lot going on at the Supreme Court for sure.
So let's go through these cases one by one, just so that we can get, I mean, we don't have to go deep into each one, but just talk about what's at play here. I mean, what's the case in general, and then why should we care, basically. We'll start with the Alaska case. It says new alcohol rules are a buzzkill and unconstitutional.
So, in this case, Ryan, Pacific Legal's got a great case about alcohol and how the government likes to overreach in the way it regulates and creates rules for bars and wineries. And so in this case, we represent Zip Kombucha, which is would like to offer live entertainment and events at its brewery up in Alaska. But the local government has a rule against that. They say that only bars can have entertainment, can have bands playing, live entertainment, dance lessons, not a brewery or a winery. And so this is ridiculous. This, as Pacific Legal sees it, interferes with Zip Kombucha, which is a great name for a client, with their ability just to make a living. And the idea that somehow because alcohol is involved allows the local government or the state to distinguish in who can have live entertainment and who cannot, we would say violates the 14th Amendment. And that makes it unconstitutional, and that's what we're arguing up in Alaska.
Man, it's such a strange world we live in because there's so many alcohol laws that either are holdover laws from back in a very different time, but they've affected so much. So that's just an interesting one to me. Let's go to the next one here. It's about K through 12 schools. This is Coalition for TJ versus Fairfax County School Board. Anytime schools are involved, my radar goes off. So what's going on in that one?
So, this is a great case Pacific Legal had. Court watchers all over the country were watching it. It was at the U.S. Supreme Court. We had lost in the lower courts. And what this is about the ability of the government, when we apply for a public school admission, particularly for a charter school, a very prestigious school, in this case up in Fairfax County, Virginia, right outside of D.C., the Thomas Jefferson schools are some of the most prestigious public and charter schools in the country. And on the heels of last year, where we all know the U.S. Supreme Court said colleges are not supposed to be able to discriminate in the way they admit students. They can't decide who to admit based on race, and they should not even be able to sort of hide the ball and actually, as a subtext, use race to admit, but deny it. This case sort of plays that out because in this case, in Fairfax County, traditionally they had looked at standardized tests to decide who gets admitted into that school, and the results spoke for themselves. About 70% of the students in Thomas Jefferson's school system, it was a number of schools in Fairfax County, about 70% were Asian American. These were oftentimes first-generation children. Their parents had immigrated from Asia, and they were hardworking students, and they succeeded on standardized tests, and so they got admitted. In the wake of the George Floyd protests in the summer of 2020, the school board decided to change its admission policies, and they decided to look holistically at sort of the language they use and put aside standardized tests. And what do you know? The Asian American student percentage of the admitted students went from about 70% to about 50%, about a 20% drop. And so we, Pacific Legal, on behalf of some Asian American students, sued and said that's unconstitutional. That is violating their 14th Amendment rights to be treated equally by the public school system. And we thought, in light of the Students for Fair Admission case at the U.S. Supreme Court last year, that we had a great case. We still think we had a great case, but unfortunately, at least 7 of the justices said they don't want to hear it. And I can say 7 because 2 of the justices dissented from the decision not to take the case and said this is unlawful discrimination, even though the lower courts had said it was not.
Mark Miller with Pacific Legal, senior attorney there on the phone with us. Yeah, this sounds like a follow-up to the big news about affirmative action that was happening at the Supreme Court level. I don't know what that was, about 8-9 months ago now. Is that about right?
That's right. That was Students for Fair Admission. That was about Harvard and University of North Carolina. And that basically said, what Chief Justice Roberts said a number of years ago, and this basically reiterated, that the way to stop discriminating on the basis of race is to stop discriminating on the basis of race, and that public universities should not be discriminating when they decide who gets admitted based on race. They can look at other factors. They can look at, did you overcome perhaps some life challenge that makes you, unique from somebody else who has the same grades. But it shouldn't just be, well, this person is Asian American, this person is African American, this person is white. It just shouldn't work that way. The 14th Amendment doesn't allow it. We thought that logic would then apply to this Thomas Jefferson case, K-12 in Fairfax County, Virginia. But the appeals court said no, that because the Asian American population in this school system was still a greater percentage than the general population of Asian Americans in Fairfax County, there was no real discrimination. So even though, as I said, 70% of Asian Americans in the class in the late 2018, 2019, 2020, after that, it went to 50% of the class was Asian American. So you literally had actual students who, under the old tests, the old regime of admissions, would have been allowed, but now was not getting in. The Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals said, nope, that's okay. We challenged that to the U.S. Supreme Court, but the U.S. Supreme Court said, for now, they don't want to hear the case. Justice Alito wrote a scathing dissent. He said that this is outrageous. This is discrimination. This flies right in the face of Students for Fair Admission, the cases you're alluding to, the Harvard and UNC cases just from 8 or 9 months ago. And I expect you're going to see this issue again at the Supreme Court. We're going to keep knocking on the door. We have another case out of Boston that will be filing a petition, same issue, where the Boston public school system, we would allege, is discriminating against students on the basis of race for K-12. And sooner or later, the U.S. Supreme Court is going to have to face this issue.
It's really amazing how quickly we as a society have turned from, hard work and, pull yourself up by your bootstraps will get you far in this world, to the exact opposite. Anything based on hard work or merit is almost looked at negatively. We should be judging by different standards is basically what we keep hearing. Let's move on to the 11th Circuit Court issue that Baldwin County in Alabama stripped Mike Bordelin of his constitutional property rights. Now, this one interests me because anything involving property rights and the government, to me, is like, okay, let's all stop and see what is being said here.
Well, and, Ryan, I agree with you. Pacific Legal, we specialize in property rights. Many of our cases that we get to the U.S. Supreme Court are about property rights. Thankfully, this case doesn't have to go to the U.S. Supreme Court because the lower appeals court Unlike the Thomas Jefferson case, where that appeals court ruled, we would argue, improperly, here the 11th Circuit, which covers the Southeast, got it right. Mike Bordelon is a retiree who likes to buy rental properties. He likes to buy homes along the shore in Alabama, the Gulf Shores, and turn them into vacation rentals. And he got a permit to do that, to renovate and actually expand a house and make it 3 stories. And then after about a week or so, the local government revoked the permit. They said they gave him a stop work order, and they said, we're no longer going to allow you to build. And thankfully, he got in touch with a good property rights lawyer who then got in touch with Pacific Legal. And we argued, this is outrageous. This man had a right. He had what we call a vested right. Once you give him that permit to build, you can't take that away. And of course, as is so often the case in these property rights scenarios, what happened was a neighbor who would have been a competitor, so not just a NIMBY, not just a not in my own backyard, but also a competitor who also had rental properties. He didn't like the idea of new competition. So he had pestered and pestered and pestered the local government to not give the guy the permit. And when they gave him the permit to build the home, he convinced them afterwards to say, oh, you made a mistake. You shouldn't have given it to him. And so because of this neighbor and because of the local government that just simply caved, we had to sue. He had to get a property rights lawyer to sue, and then Pacific Legal at the appeals court, the 11th Circuit, was able to win the case for him. So he will get to build.
Man, Mark, I love capitalism. I hate crony capitalism, because that is when a private party gets the government involved, basically to protect their own company at the cost of everybody else's companies. So I love that you guys got involved in that case. We've budgeted here a couple minutes at the end of the hour, Mark, for you to speak on the social media case that's been happening this week. I know there's been a lot of attention on this, but I don't know that much about it. Can you tell us kind of what's at stake?
So this week, the Supreme Court heard arguments for several hours, in fact, on Monday, about 2 laws that were regulating social media, one out of Texas and one out of Florida. So the first case was called Moody versus Net Choice, and Net Choice is the group of social media companies that we all know: Facebook, Twitter/X, TikTok, and so Net Choice is just their sort of consortium of those companies. And then Paxton versus Net Choice, or Net Choice versus Paxton, same thing. Texas writes a law that says we can regulate the way you allow people to use your social media forums. So if you're going to allow people to speak on Facebook or on Twitter or on TikTok, then you can't viewpoint discriminate. You can't say, well, if we're going to allow pro-Palestinians to talk, you can't discriminate and not allow people who are against Palestine, say, to talk. Or maybe it's abortion. If you're going to allow abortion talk, then you have to allow pro-abortion or pro-choice talk. You have to allow pro-life or anti-abortion talk. And so this law, it hasn't really broken through this week. I agree with you, Ryan. What's interesting is when these laws were first passed back in 2021, they were all the rage, because the idea was that these social media companies were deplatforming speakers. You might remember, Twitter had just, kicked President Trump off of Twitter. And that's why this became really a national cause célèbre. These laws get passed, and then the issue kind of died down, probably in part because Elon bought Twitter, bought X, and the Facebook, I think, pretty much got out of the political business at a large extent. And so now these cases don't seem to have caught the nation's attention as much as, say, immigration has. But the issue is very important. The arguments at the Supreme Court were very interesting. Justices were coming at it from all different angles. Basically, though, very strong, Justice Kavanaugh being a good example of, hey, the First Amendment requires the government not to discriminate against speech. It can't tell private businesses what they can do. First Amendment is not a regulation on private businesses. Justice Kavanaugh was strong on that. Justice Jackson was strong on that to show you this was not a left-right issue. And so I think the outcome here is going to be very interesting to watch. We often talk about the court breaking down by appointment, Republican appointees versus Democrat appointees. I don't think you're going to see that in this case.
Yeah, that's why this one's been so interesting. I mean, what I do know about it is that that's been central, that issue you just mentioned, whether the First Amendment applies to, and this is where they've been grappling. It seems like all 9 justices have been grappling with this. Does the First Amendment apply to these private companies, or are these private companies essentially the public square at this point? So they should be regulated for free speech, or I should be open to free speech, I should say. It seems to be kind of the issue that everybody's asking, all 9 of them, right?
That's exactly right. And the government, in fact, particularly the Florida state lawyer who argued, the Solicitor General from Florida, he made that exact point, that this is a public square, and he related it to a case from about 40 years ago called Pruneyard, where Pruneyard was a mall owner in California who didn't want to allow certain people to use the open portion of the mall to do pamphleting. And the U.S. Supreme Court said, no, even though that's your private property, you can be required to allow people to speak in that public square. I will argue to you that Pruneyard was a bad decision. Property rights of the mall owner should have trumped any sort of argument that the First Amendment can regulate that private property owner. But that's what Florida was relying upon, was that case. Justice Jackson, Justice Sotomayor, even in Kagan, I think, pushed back on that analogy. They said, I think it was Jackson who said, no, this would be taking Pruneyard and saying that, in fact, that the pamphleteer, the person trying to speak through a pamphlet, could go into one of the businesses in the mall and force that business to pass out the pamphlets, not the public square, if you will, portion of the open mall, which, of course, with malls dying, I don't know how old you have to be to even understand what I'm talking about.
that would have been considered the public square. Before we run here, Mark, any idea, like based on the oral arguments, how that's going to play out?
I think most watchers saw that the majority of the justices, left and right, maybe not 9-0, but the majority of the justices are going to say that these laws go too far in regulating private speech and getting in the way of these private media companies. They were sort of comparing them to newspapers and saying that the government can't tell a newspaper what its op-ed should be or what opinion columns it's going to write. But how they actually reached that result, I don't know.
Boy, Elon's purchase of Twitter has really changed the dynamic of that whole world, hasn't it? Mark Miller, Pacific Legal Senior Attorney. We are out of time, but man, I appreciate you giving us that rundown, because otherwise I'm reading headlines and not sure what to do with them.
Always a pleasure to join you, Ryan.
Let's go back, let's go back, let's go way on, way back when.
This is the Annie Fry Show.
Couldn't have been too much more than 10. Ain't no psychiatrist, ain't no doctor with degrees.
Follow Annie on Twitter at Annie Fry Show.
Window World, simply the best for less. What does that mean? How do you say that Window World is simply the best, Annie? Let's talk about the lifetime warranty covering all the parts that you're going to get with those Window World replacement windows. Covers the glass breakage. I've got kids. I appreciate hearing that. Also, labor. I remember one time we were in a storm in the house I lived in before now. Tree came right through the window, and you need to get that done and get that done fast because the window was broken and shattered. You call Window World, and they are going to get you taken care of right away. 314-993-1800. Call 314-993-1800. In over 20 years in business, they've improved the look and a thermal efficiency of over 72,000 customers right here in St. Louis. They are the go-to St. Louis window replacement business. 314-993-1800. That's 314-993-1800. You can also shop Window World online at windowworld.com.
Imagine having all the money you need for retirement, all the income, every month, guaranteed. That's Secure Future Investor. An indexed annuity tied to growth in the stock market, but without any risk of loss ever. It's guaranteed money for life income, no matter how long you live. Call 888-509-2228. 888-509-2228. Sponsored by GP Agency, Inc., Raleigh, North Carolina. Licensed in all states. Performance may vary. Consult with your financial professional before making an investment decision.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. 120,000 miles of night drives, daily commutes, and who knows how many.
Are we there yet?
Through countless fixes, elbow grease, and a new radiator, you kept your ride alive. With eBay Motors, you have over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members of FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's corporate cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/free. Ramp.com/free. RAMP.com/free.
Not many window companies do egress windows. Egress windows are the openings used for emergencies for basements with no doorway exit to the outside. GHRcontracting.com. That's all we do. Egress windows. GHRcontracting.com.
AMCO presents Bet You Didn't Know.
Bet you didn't know that your car's transmission is made up of 800 pieces. Also, bet you didn't know that AMCO's fixed over 40 million transmissions, and that AMCO offers a nationwide warranty.
AMCO offers easy payment plan options for most any credit situation, so you can fix it fast and pay it off slow at AMCO.
That's AMCO, AA, MCO.
Today's YouTube live chat poll is, do the efforts to keep Trump off the ballot help him in the November election? We want to hear from you. We'll have those results for you next, and we want to hear from you, so get in quick. It's still time to vote. Leave a message in the chat. Tell us why you voted yes or no. The time is 2:46. This time check is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning.
It's time for a $98 furnace tune-up.
Hey, it's Mark Reardon as we get going on this Monday afternoon. A big Supreme Court decision. You probably heard about it by now. We'll run it down after Fox News at 3. Also, reaction from our constitutional law expert, Ilya Shapiro at the Manhattan Institute. It's all coming up.
The U.S. Supreme Court rules in favor of former President Donald Trump in his appeal of a Colorado ballot disqualification. That applies to Colorado. In all likelihood, it will apply to other states as well.
Yep, that's the big news of the day. Mark Reardon just mentioned it. He'll be talking about it, of course. We've been talking about it all day. In fact, it is the subject of the Annie Fry YouTube live chat poll. Do the efforts to keep Trump off the ballot help him in the November election? We haven't mentioned the poll as much today, I think just because it's so much part of the news cycle, but we also haven't answered the poll for ourselves. So, Brad, what do you think about this? Do the efforts to keep Trump off the ballot help him in the November election?
If they were just by themselves, I don't think so, not as much. But you combine that with the prosecutions and all of the other things, and it really starts to take on this picture of political persecution of the guy that's running to be president. And I think with the average American, they'll look at this and go, I don't know that he's really as guilty as much as you guys think that he is. And the more they push this sort of thing, the more sympathetic these people will become to Trump's cause. I think you're starting to see that in the polls.
Yeah.
So I'm a yes, they will help him.
I am also a yes on this poll. The efforts to keep Trump off the ballot do help him. Not that, I want to be clear here too, not that anybody would want this to happen. So I don't think that Donald Trump or anybody on the Trump team or anybody who even would vote Republican would say, yeah, let's go through this because it might help Trump. No, it's still bad. But I do think that it is going to help him. It's amazing to turn this man. I don't even want to use the word privilege because that word is loaded now. But this dude, Donald Trump, comes from some privilege. He comes from some money. He made money. He made a lot of money. He became a big celebrity, and he became the president of the United States. It is hard to turn a person like that into a martyr. And they somehow have turned him into a martyr with all of these cases, just like you said, Brad. It's not just this one, but this one does. It's really hard to defend that they're not politically persecuting him using the law right now. So we'll get to the results of that poll at the end of the show, which is very close. We're in the last segment right now. Before we do, you know how I like talking about polls. Let's talk about some polls. Good news or bad news, Brad?
On the polls? Do I want good news or do I want bad news?
I have bad news and good
Let's lead
news.
with the bad news.
Okay. The bad news is, no, you chose wrong. I'm going to give good news first. Because it just is easier to say it that way. The good news is, as I look up and down the poll of polls, which is basically Real Clear Politics, keeps an aggregate of all polls. Everything from today through as far as I could see into the end of February, which was just the beginning of last week, it is basically all red. It's red, 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 red. Now, some of that would be Nikki Haley. Some of that would be stuff like the direction of the country, disapprove. That would be benefits Republicans here, so on and so forth. General election polls, which they're a barometer for where the nation is, and that's it. They don't decide elections. General election polls don't. But consider that generally, general election polls favor slightly Democrats. They are consistently and always favoring Donald Trump right now. Whether you have it just Trump versus Biden, or you have it Trump versus Biden versus RFK Jr. versus Cornel West versus Jill Stein, or you add other names in there, and it doesn't even matter which poll you're looking at. Look at Fox News, look at Wall Street Journal, CBS News. They all have Trump leading in a general election. Well, the one indicator that is important for is to know not only how the country feels in any given moment, but also usually if a general election is polling-wise tied, and that turns into an actual even split in the nation, Electoral College would benefit Republicans in that scenario. So that's why it's interesting. So let's talk about the Electoral College, and let's get to the good news, bad news portion of this.
Can I ask you a question about polls too?
Please do.
So I heard today that somebody said that Democrats have been constantly and consistently outperforming the polls. They've been doing better in the special elections, and they went back to as far as 2022. Is that true? Is that accurate?
In 2023 and the one election this year in New York, that is, it's tough because that's kind of true, but here's the thing. The polls for special elections are so minute and infrequent that these big polling agencies, they're not really looking at who's going to replace George Santos and some of those. So, you're talking about real local polls a lot of times.
Okay.
And very small polls from agencies that aren't typically polling agencies.
Yeah, and then when you look at how they outperformed in 2022, a lot of people like to point back to the Dobbs ruling.
And that's a fact. If you want to go back to 22, that is true that Democrats outperformed most polling, not all, but most. But that was, consider, June was the overturn of Roe versus Wade. Voting started within a month of that.
Yeah.
And so you're talking about an election that was a major social change issue that, kind of took people off guard by how much that was going to motivate progressives to turn out. Because that's all it was. It's not that the polling was off. It's who turns out. That's the key with any election now. Because your polling is just going to indicate kind of generally where people are at. But it's all about who shows up.
And maybe that's why today's poll is important and what we're talking about, because this will motivate Trump voters.
Yeah, it does. And that's been my whole argument for why Donald Trump needs to be the nominee for 3 years now, is that his voters tend to be people who don't always show up in other elections, and therefore his totals are higher. Here's the good news. You look at swing state polls, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Trump versus Biden. Trump leads 100% of them. That's Bloomberg Morning Consult. These aren't right-wing polls.
Right.
These are left-leaning, if anything. Then if you add in other candidates, because it won't be Trump versus Biden. In most states, there will be other random candidates on there. People like RFK, although still don't know how many states he's going to be on.
He's got on in Arizona now.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Cornel West, of course, Jill Stein. These people are not going to pull. Now, Kennedy could, but West and Stein are not going to pull from Trump. So when we put all those candidates in, take Arizona, for instance, since you just mentioned them. Arizona, Trump versus Biden, Trump is up by 6. If you add in all the other candidates, Trump is up by 9. The other candidates seem to help Trump, which only makes sense because when you talk about West and Stein, those are far left people, no Republican. Kennedy, you don't know. He might be a wash either way. So that's the good news. The bad news, Brad, since you asked for that first and I did not deliver.
You bum. That's bad news.
The bad news is that the states that he's consistently leading the most in, which is Arizona, Georgia, and Nevada, oddly Nevada, I mean, that was off the radar, but he is. Those 3 states, if he wins those and then all the others that he's leading in, outside of the swing states, it gets him to 268 electoral college votes.
That's not 270.
That's not 270. It's not even 269.
No.
Because 269 would be split.
A tie.
And that would go to the House, as far as I understand. But he needs, even if he gets those 3 states, which look really good.
Someone else or somewhere else.
He needs one more state. Or he could lose Nevada. He could lose one other and gain.
But he's not necessarily losing in those other states. He's just not as big of a leader.
That's correct. So that's where it's like, it's not bad news. But if you look at those states, he's consistently ahead by outside the margin of error in those states, which get him to 268 electoral votes. He needs 270.
It's going to be
if you know anything
ride.
about it. Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, they're all moving. Michigan, they're all moving in the direction of Trump in ways that we've never seen in both 2016 or 2020. So it'll be, that's why it's interesting to watch right now, because we're just seeing stuff that we haven't seen in previous elections. Let's look at the results of today's YouTube live chat poll. The question was, do the efforts to keep Trump off the ballot help him in the November election? A couple comments here. One from John says, I voted yes on the poll. My philosophy has always been, if the left doesn't want a candidate to run that badly, then I want him to run even worse.
So with 185 votes in, I think that's still the number of votes, 185 votes in, 85% of you said, yes, this will help Trump in November.
And my assumption is if you said no, you're not saying it'll hurt Trump, although maybe you could. But I thought that even if you thought it wasn't going to do anything, you'd vote no. So most of you saying, yes, it does help. It helps to have a guy look like he's being persecuted. I would go so far as to say he doesn't just look like he's being persecuted. The law is coming after Trump in ways we've never seen before. Well, this has been fun. It's the Annie Fry Show, and she'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for letting me fill in, and we'll see you then.
I'm not America's sweetheart, so beat the drum with me.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle. Unless